Chapter 25:17. It was a colorful abyss with many coffins floating up and down. The edges of the coffins were covered with yellow hair. It was such a strange scene. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, Lin Fengyun and the others would not have believed it if they were told. It was happening right in front of their eyes. They were being carried by a tornado toward the coffins. The coffins might be sucked in. Everyone was frightened, including Lu Li. They had to face what they had to face. As the tornado swept over, the more than a dozen coffins were sucked in. They were dancing and spinning with the others. When the coffin neared the people, the divine runes on the coffin lit up. Following that, a sky full of yellow hair flew out, shooting at the cultivators in all directions. Everyone was under attack, without exception. They reacted at once. They either used defensive skills or took out treasures. Bang, 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 Lu Li used the heaven armor skill. The yellow hair pierced into his body like needles, making a muffled sound. It was painful but not enough to hurt him. After a while, Lu Li stopped worrying and focused on Lu Ling. He was afraid that something might happen to her. He took a glance and was immediately relieved. Lu Ling took out a small purple incense burner. The incense burner emitted purple flames and quickly spun around her. Any Goldie that came close was burnt by the incense burner. Lin Fengyun and the others had treasures as well. The others were in a worse state. But the Dragon Rebel race was better off. They had all awakened the Dragon Rebel blood seal. Their defensive abilities were enhanced. They could stand the yellow hair. Some of the other families had their bodies pierced by the yellow hair. The yellow hair could suck blood. Many people cried out in pain. Their skin and flesh were sinking in. Lin Fengyun and the others used their treasures to help those nearby. Still, many people were suffering. In the time for merely a dozen breaths, 7 or 8 people had been sucked dry and died on the spot. The yellow hair seemed to be growing. Even though many of them were destroyed, more were coming out from the coffins. The Dragon Rebel race had it easier. The Hall of Watercloud could stop the yellow hair as well. After all, the Hall of Watercloud only had a few powerful warriors left, and everyone had treasures. The people from the Lin and Fan families were in a more miserable situation. More and more people were falling for it. The experts from the Lin and Fan families could only watch helplessly. They couldn't help much. One by one, they died. The experts of the Lin family and the Fan family were in great pain. The feeling of watching their brothers and sisters die before their eyes was like suffering in hell. The Dragon and I Pool and the others could actually help, but no one did. Because the Fan family and the Lin family were their potential enemies. Helping the enemy was the same as harming oneself. If the Fan and Lin families were weakened, then their chances of survival would be greater. Bang, bang, bang! Lin Fengyun controlled a huge magic seal and smashed it towards a coffin. The coffin was smashed away for some distance, but it was quickly pulled back by the suction force of the tornado. Everyone, use your treasures to attack the coffin and smash it out. Lin Fengyun's spirit was lifted as he roared. He controlled the huge seal to continuously smash a coffin, and actually managed to smash a coffin away. The tornado whooshed over the abyss and did not stop there. It flew to the distance. The coffin that Lin Fengyun smashed away fell to the ground and then flew up on its own toward the abyss. Boom, boom, boom. All the powerful warriors with treasures took actions. Many did not even have the mind to protect themselves. They were still attacking the coffins despite the attacks from the yellow hairs. Only by smashing all the coffins away could they be safe once and for all. At that moment, the Dragon and I Pool and Lu Ling took actions as well. They didn't want the Dragon and I clan to be hurt either. Even Dragon and I Yun could not stand it any longer. As long as the yellow hairs pierced into a person's body, they would suck away the person's essence and blood. Gradually, the person's defense would weaken. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, all the coffins were smashed away. Everyone was relieved. Lin family and the Fan family, on the other hand, felt like weeping but had no tears. Both families lost more than 10 people. The Lin family lost 15 people, and the Fan family lost 12. Many others were wounded. Many were emaciated. Much of their essence, chi and spirit had been sucked away. Their vitality was damaged. It would take several months for them to recover. The Dragon and I clan was cheered up. Only a few were wounded. The Dragon and I clan had the upper hand now, unless the other three forces joined hands. But the Fan family and the Lin family were mortal enemies. They wouldn't work together so easily. Of course, this was based on the premise that everyone was free. If they were trapped in the tornado, then it would be pointless to say anything. What is in the abyss? This question came to Lu Li's mind as well as many others. There was a 7-colored glow in the abyss. The coffins flew back and floated up and down in the abyss. There must be something in the abyss, something big. There might be treasures. Maybe the coffins were there to guard the treasures. Anyone who wanted to go into the abyss would be attacked by the yellow hairs in the coffins. What kind of demons and monsters are in the coffins? There was another question worth pondering. Some of the yellow hairs were already so horrifying. If the demons and monsters in the coffins were to come out, then no one would survive. Who was suppressing those demons and monsters? Was this really a land of treasures refined by Saint Emperor? Lu Li could not figure it out. He did not want to think about it. He closed his eyes and continued to cultivate, waiting for Blood Fairy's message. He had an inexplicable confidence that Blood Fairy would be able to break the tornado. The tornado moved forward into the unknown distance. It was hazy all around. It was as if the tornado was going to take them to the end of the world. Look at the sky to the north. What is that? 5 days later, another shout woke Lu Li up. He raised his head and squinted. Once again, he saw a shocking scene. In the northern sky, a golden chain suddenly appeared. That chain was like a divine chain of heaven and earth as it traversed the northern sky. An inexplicable divine might emanated from the chain. Under this chain, everyone felt very small. It was as if the mortals had seen a bolt of lightning and could not resist the might of heaven and earth. Someone shouted again. Lu Li's pupils contracted. He did see a small black dot flying toward the chain. That person's long hair and robe were fluttering in the wind. He was graceful, as if an immortal had descended. Buzzing, but soon, the scene in the northern sky gradually faded. The giant chain and the figure slowly turned into nothingness, disappearing without a trace, as if they had never been there in the first place. A huge chain and a person. This scene caused everyone's hearts to palpitate, and they were extremely surprised and bewildered. Was that an illusion, or did it really exist? Who was that person? Why was there a chain in the sky? Nobody could understand. But they all felt the world was becoming more and more mysterious and unpredictable. P.S. Today is the meeting. 4 chapters tomorrow. Also, there was an activity on the QQ reading app called Summer Holiday Support Season. Click on the Discover, Receive Benefits section and find this activity to support the Old Freak. The activity would end on July 15th. If the Old Freak could win the overall ranking, he would receive 10 chapters on July 16th, 8 chapters for the top 3, and 5 chapters for the top 10. For more details, you could click on the book review section. The Old Freak had posted a comment with a detailed introduction. Chapter 25:18. The chain did not seem to be some kind of artifact. That was the first impression people had. Instead, it was more like some kind of natural law, like a strange scene in heaven and earth, like a rainbow. If that was not an artifact, then why would there be a chain in the sky? Was that person real? If it was a real person, then what level of strength would that person have reached? Just now, everyone took a few looks at the chain. They all felt suffocated. If they were allowed to get closer, they would all be immobilized. Is it that nameless demon emperor? Lu Li thought. If the sky-reaching chains were real, then the only one that could get close to the sky-reaching chains was that nameless demon emperor. Luli didn't think even a quasi-emperor could get close. The nameless demon emperor is on this level? Are the old fellows from the four great powers also on this floor? This was what worried Luli the most. If all the senior warriors of the four forces were on this level, then once he ran into them, there was no way he could survive. Nobody could save him, not even Lu Ling. The powerful warriors of the Hall of Watercloud would tear him into pieces. Luli could not pin all his hopes on Blood Fairy. He closed his eyes and began to study the tornado, trying to see if he could find a way or provide Blood Fairy with some ideas to solve the problem as soon as possible. Luli ignored everything else and began to study. The others communicated with each other for a while. Then, they all quieted down and began to figure out a way to solve the tornado. As a matter of fact, Lin Fengyun, Shui Yuero, and the others had sent out distress signals to inform their seniors in this blessed land. However, it had been a long time since those seniors showed up. Maybe they were not on this level, or maybe they were busy with other things. Either way, they could not count on them for the time being. The tornado continued to howl, and 3 days later, it encountered another tornado. Finally, the two tornadoes merged into one again, becoming an even larger tornado that continued to move quickly into the distance. Time zipped by. Soon, 6 days had passed. Today, another scene appeared in the sky, which shocked everyone. The scene seemed to be very far away, and they could not see it very clearly. They could see a golden chain dancing in the air, followed by a figure who seemed to be chasing the golden chain. Then, they saw another group of people following behind them. They seemed to be chasing after the giant golden chain as well. It was above the void, and there were many giant rocks flying in the air. The giant chain would occasionally drill into the giant rocks in the air, and fly out again from time to time. "Isn't that third granduncle? That's my grandfather. Eh? My elders seem to be here as well." The people inside the tornado were in an uproar. They couldn't see anything from the first figure, but although the figures behind were blurry, many people could still recognize them. In particular, there were a few whose appearances were rather special, and they were immediately recognized. They were the experts from the four great powers that had entered. Unfortunately, after the figures flashed, they gradually became blurry and disappeared in midair like a mirage. Everyone also sensed that the images were not nearby, and they did not know why they had appeared in midair. "What's that giant chain?" Previously, everyone thought that it might be an illusion. Now that the seniors of their powers had appeared, it was definitely not an illusion. The person at the front was likely to be the nameless demon Dharch, which meant that the nameless demon Dharch and the experts from the various powers were chasing after the giant chain. It was definitely a supreme treasure that even Emperor-class experts were chasing after. Therefore, everyone was very curious about it. Previously, everyone suspected that it was a kind of natural wonder, but now they didn't think so. The giant chain was flying away, and the nameless demon Dharch and a group of people were chasing after it. This meant that it was a treasure with a very spiritual nature. Holy weapon. This was the speculation of many people. Only a super strong holy weapon could attract Emperor-class experts to chase after it. This place was suspected to be a supreme treasure ground refined by a saint emperor. It was understandable that there was a holy weapon inside. Many treasures had a spiritual nature, and holy weapons were even more so. Perhaps this holy weapon was unwilling to be taken by the nameless demon, Dharch, and a group of people, which was why it was flying away. Holy weapon, many people couldn't help but sigh. Whoever could subdue a holy weapon and make it their own, their combat strength would soar immediately. For example, if the Dragon Rebel Abyss could get a powerful holy weapon, they could easily suppress ordinary Lord. This was the power of a holy weapon. The Dragon Rebel Valley and the Watercloud Hall didn't have any Emperor-class experts, including the Hua clan where Tian Yazi was from. However, the three powers all had a super strong holy weapon. With the help of the holy weapon, the supreme experts of the clans could easily contend with ordinary great emperors and even suppress them. This was the power of a holy weapon. A holy weapon was a weapon used by a saint emperor and refined by a saint emperor. It contained the supreme power and laws of a saint emperor. There weren't many complete holy weapons in the entire level 3 heaven. Even some emperor-class experts didn't have a holy weapon. There hadn't been a saint emperor for so many years. Many of the holy weapons from the ancient times had been broken. There were only so many holy weapons left, and all of them were occupied by the major powers and powerful great emperors. A holy weapon was the ultimate dream for all martial artists. Of course, it was just a dream. Even if they could get a holy weapon, they wouldn't be able to control it. They would have to hand it over to their families for the most powerful warriors to use. They wouldn't be able to exert the full power of a holy weapon. It was even a problem if they could use it at full power. The scene in the distance had disappeared. Everyone, including Luli, was still excited at their realm and abilities. Who wouldn't want to further improve their abilities? That huge chain is not a holy weapon. Luli thought about it for a while. He had a strange feeling. He had never seen a holy weapon and he didn't feel the power of that huge chain. However, he had a feeling that the giant chain was an extremely strange existence, but it was not a saint weapon. Never mind. Even if it is the most powerful treasure in the world, it is not mine. After a moment, Luli shook his head. Such a treasure was not something he could covet. Even if he did get it, it wouldn't be a good thing. Instead, it would cause a disaster. All the powerful warriors in the level 3 heaven would come after him. By then, he would be hated by everyone. Even if he could hide in the heaven reverse universe, he would still be found and killed. An innocent man would get into trouble because of his wealth. Soon, Luli put this matter aside. He continued to cultivate while studying the formation patterns in the tornado, trying to find a way to crack it. Time continued to pass, and in the blink of an eye, another half a month had passed. During this period of time, everyone was trying to think of a way to solve this problem, but in the end, no one was able to solve it. The strange scene in the sky appeared once again. The giant chain was still flying in the sky, and a group of people were chasing it. The group of people didn't give up. They hadn't been able to take down the giant chain after half a month. They didn't know what was so special about the giant chain that even an emperor-level expert couldn't take it down. Chapter 25:19. Blood Fairy was becoming more and more accomplished in the study of divine glyph. There were indeed divine glyphs in the tornado. It was because of these divine glyphs that the tornado could contain such strong and mysterious energy. Since there were divine glyphs, the rest would be easy. Blood Fairy had studied for a long time and had found a precise way to crack the divine glyph. As long as they followed Blood Fairy's method, it would be easy to crack the tornado. But there was a problem. Once they followed Blood Fairy's method, the entire tornado might collapse. In other words, everyone could escape. By then, it would not be good news for Luli, but a nightmare. At the very least, a few people from the Water Cloud Palace would immediately make a move. As for whether the Lin family and the Fan family would make a move against him, that was uncertain. That being said, Luli was an outsider. This land belonged to the Four Forces. Maybe Lin family and Fan family would not allow Luli to touch it. The Dragon Rebel race was the most powerful one. None of them had died. The other three forces might work together to deal with Luli. That would be an opportunity. Luli was afraid to take the risk. After some thoughts he asked, "Is there a way for me to get out alone and the rest of you can stay in the tornado? Once the formation patterns in the tornado are destroyed, I may be killed by the others." "Well," Blood Fairy pondered for a moment, then said, "that will be difficult, but I can think of a way. If I have enough time, I believe I will have no problem comprehending this heaven and earth formation. When I do, I might be able to create a tornado like this." "Really?" Luli was surprised. This tornado was strong. Lin Fengyun and Shueiyuero were at the peak of the fifth tribulation. This tornado could even trap warriors at the peak of the fifth tribulation. This was a powerful skill. If Blood Fairy could build a tornado like this, then Lu Li's abilities would be greatly enhanced. I will study it later. First, I need to figure out a way to get out. Lu Li calmed himself down. He could not learn the heaven and earth formation anytime soon. It was pointless to think about something so far in the future. He had to get out first. Blood Fairy continued to study, while Lu Li continued to cultivate. The tornado was still floating. The world was still a blur. There was nothing special. Apart from the wilderness, there was more wilderness. The Dragon Rebel Pool, Lin Fengyun, Shueiyuero, and the others had almost given up. They didn't have a good understanding of divine inscriptions, and they had no way of deciphering such divine inscriptions. Their own divine powers were messed up, and their treasures were useless against the tornado. Their other divine powers couldn't affect the tornado either, so they couldn't do anything. Right now, their only hope was to wait for their seniors to come and rescue them. However, they were safe inside the tornado. Moreover, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was also very rich. So, it would not be a problem for them to cultivate here for a few years. There's a sea in front of us? After another 7 or 8 days, everyone found that the scenery in front of them had changed. A blue sea appeared in the distance, which made everyone excited. If the tornado went into the sea, it would definitely attract seawater, right? Would it cause any changes in the tornado? Did they have a chance to escape? Soon, the tornado reached the sea, stirring up the seawater. There was a huge whirlpool in the sea. The seawater was spinning in the tornado. Everyone was soaked. What? Lin Fengyun yelled. The force is weakening. Everyone check. The force that is restraining us is weakening. Yes, it is weakening. A powerful warrior of the Hall of Watercloud sensed it and was overjoyed. Then, he turned to Lu Li like a viper. Shueiyuero and the others looked at Lu Li almost at the same time. They could not hide the murderous intent in their eyes. The dagger was revealed. Since they were about to get out, there was nothing to say. There was no need to hide anything. Someone from the Hall of Watercloud even murmured, "Lu Li, right? Later, we will let you have a good time. We will let you have a taste of the 18 tortures of the Hall of Watercloud. This time, you will beg for death." Is that so? Lu Li replied with a grin. Then I will wait and see. With that said, Lu Li paid no more attention to the warriors from the Hall of Watercloud. He said to Lu Ling, "I have to go now. Do you want to come with me?" Yes, Blood Fairy had found a way to help Lu Li get out easily. Actually, Lu Li was hesitant to ask Lu Ling because he was not sure what taking her with him would bring her. Lu Ling was living a good life. She would be hunted if she went with him, and he did not have many resources. In other words, he could not even feed himself. Was it really good for Lu Li to ask Tian Yazi to help him crack the memory seal? Once Lu Ling's mind was broken, would she be able to cultivate at this speed? Would it affect her future development? Also, if he took Lu Ling away, would it be a devastating blow to the second heaven? What if the Dragon Rebel race went to the second heaven in a fit of rage? By then, Lu Li would be a sinner of the second heaven. But in the end, he chose to ask. He wanted to hear Lu Ling's opinion. Lu Li had not talked to Lu Ling recently. She was surprised that he suddenly did. After a moment of surprise, she replied, "You want to go now? Can you leave now? Go with you? Where to?" "Yes." Lu Li replied with certainty, "I have cracked the tornado. I can leave at any time. As for where to go with me, it is hard to tell. Let's find an exit and leave this blessed land first. Maybe I can find someone to crack the memory seal in your soul. Do you want to do that?" Lu Ling was hesitating. She was looking forward to it and a little bit scared at the same time. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, she said, "Even though I have a strange sense of kinship with you, I still don't want to go with you. I don't want to crack the memory seal. I am living a good life. Okay. Lu Li took a deep breath. Since Lu Ling believed that she was living a good life, then nothing else mattered. She was a member of the Dragon Rebel race. She should go back to the Dragon Rebel race. She could have a better future there. Lu Li would not force her to leave. Maybe when Lu Ling reached the level of a lord, the memory seal would be broken. She would come back when she had nothing to do. By then, they could reunite. Never mind, never mind. Lu Li gazed into Lu Ling's eyes and smiled with satisfaction. He had gone through a lot of hardships and narrowly escaped death. But it was all worth it to be able to see her and know that she was living a good life. As long as you are well, everything is fine, Lu Li said. Then, divine energy surged in his body. Though it was messed up, he could still mobilize a small amount of divine energy. He moved the divine energy to his hands and feet and shook his hands and legs according to a certain pattern. Lu Li's strange behavior caught many people's attention, especially those from the Hall of Watercloud. Some even sneered, wondering if Lu Li was having a seizure. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, something shocking happened. After a while, Lu Li's chi and energy surged. Then, he dashed out like an arrow and left the tornado. Lu Li stood in the void, neither happy nor sad. He didn't try to attack the warriors from the Hall of Watercloud. He just gazed into Lu Ling's eyes as if he was trying to engrave her in the depth of his heart. Whoosh. Chapter 25-20. Lu Li's instinct told him that the entrance to the next level was above the sea. The tornado was blowing toward them. Now that they were above the sea, the tornado seemed to be weakening. The exit might be above the sea. Lu Li was afraid that someone would come after him. Therefore, he flew close to the surface of the sea. At the same time, he used the trace of Tao to sense the surroundings, fearing that some powerful body or monster might pop up from the sea. Monsters could come out at any time. After flying for 6 hours, Lu Li arrived at a small island and found the entrance to the next level. He built some runes and asked Blood Fairy to check. Then, he dashed into a deep cave. After a flash of white light, Lu Li found himself in midair. There were many small stones floating in the air, and they were flying and moving slowly. How Lu Li was taken aback. He was in midair? There were stones flying in the air? How similar was this to the scene when the nameless demon emperor chased after the huge chain with a group of warriors? Was the nameless demon emperor and the powerful warriors of the four forces here? Lu Li took a closer look. His mind was weighed down. The scene here was so similar to what he had seen before. The nameless demon emperor and powerful warriors of the four forces were probably on this floor. It did not matter where the nameless demon emperor was. It did not matter if the huge chain was taken by the nameless demon emperor or by the powerful warriors of the four forces. What mattered was that if the powerful warriors of the four forces were here, Lu Li would be in grave danger. Even if he ran into the powerful warriors of the Dragon Rebel race, they wouldn't care about right or wrong. They would take him down and interrogate him first or search his soul and then kill him. Therefore, Lu Li was in a precarious situation. He might run into powerful warriors in front of him and pursuers behind him. He was in a dilemma. Move. No matter how difficult it was, he had to go. Lu Li flew downward. It would be easier for him to find a place to hide. However, after flying for several miles, he stopped because there were runes down there. He did not know what kind of runes they were. But since there were runes down there, they must be useful, not just for decoration. In other words, one could only fly in midair on this floor. They couldn't go down or fly upwards. Apart from some floating rocks, there was nothing else in the air. There was nowhere to hide in this kind of place. Although the light in the sky was not very bright, it was still easy to see the scene tens of thousands of miles away. Within a radius of tens of thousands of kilometers, if anyone was nearby, they would be able to locate him easily. This is the sky. Suddenly, an idea popped into Luli's mind. Was this level above the one he had just been on? It was separated by the divine runes. Otherwise, how could they see a group of people chasing after the sky-spanning giant chain? Very likely. Luli nodded slightly. Perhaps under certain circumstances, the scene above could be refracted and seen by the people below. This possibility was very high. Otherwise, there was no way to explain the scenes they saw. Go! Luli flew carefully and kept an eye on the surroundings. If there was any sign of trouble, he would have to take out the god boat and flee. However, the god speedboat's speed was about the same as a Lord-class monster's. If a Lord-class monster locked onto him, his fate would be bleak. Shio! From the distance came a huge rock. It was so fast that at first, Luli thought it was an attack from a monster. He thought for a moment. Instead of trying to dodge, he smashed at the rock with his powerful warrior. He wanted to see if there was anything special about the rock here. Boom! With a muffled sound, Luli was knocked away by a strong force. The rock, on the other hand, was not damaged at all. It continued to fly away at a speed comparable to a warrior of the fifth tribulation. How Luli was shocked. Was this a rock or a relic weapon? It was so strong. His punch could even hurt a warrior of the fifth tribulation. How come the rock was not damaged at all? No, there are divine runes. Luli suddenly realized something. When he attacked, the rock glowed. There must be powerful divine runes inside the rock. Whoosh! Soon, another rock the size of a head flew over. Luli smashed at it again. This time, the rock moved a bit, but it was not damaged. There are divine runes. This time, Luli used the trace of Tao to check carefully. There were indeed divine runes on the rock. Just now, the divine runes glowed for a moment but soon went back to normal. Luli had to be very careful to see with his naked eyes. Well, Luli stood where he was, deep in thought. All of a sudden, he had an idea. If this idea could be realized, he might be able to deceive everyone, find the entrance to the next level, and then escape. Well, let's see. After a moment, Luli flew into the distance. He looked around for more rock. Soon, he noticed one that had a radius of more than 100 feet. It was flying fast, comparable to the middle stage of the fifth tribulation. Whoosh! Luli leaped up and caught up with the boulder. He grabbed the protruding edge of the boulder and said, "Blood Fairy, find a way to crack the runes on the boulder so that I can go inside. But you cannot damage the runes." That was right. Luli's plan was to hide in the rock. If he could crack the divine runes on the rock, he could dig a hole and hide in it. Then, he could set up some divine runes to cover the hole and his energy. He could not use psychic power here. As long as he could hide in the rock, unless he was extremely unlucky, he would not be discovered. He could follow the rock, and when he found the exit, he could make a run for it. Of course. Luli could not use psychic power, and the psychic powers of the Dragon Rebel Abyss and the others were restricted as well. That did not mean that Lords would be restricted as well. On the off chance that Lords could use psychic power to check and Luli was discovered, he would still die. Luli had nowhere else to go. At the very least, hiding in the rock would be safer. He could only hope that the psychic powers of the Lords were restricted as well. Blood Fairy, hurry up. If your master is discovered, I will be doomed. Luli crawled to the top of the rock. He hid his energy and tried to make himself less obvious. Blood Fairy did not send him a message. Instead, she checked the rock to see if she could crack the divine runes. Admittedly, Luli was lucky. In just over 2 hours, Blood Fairy came back with good news. Master, there are powerful divine runes in the rock. But I have mastered a core pattern. I can disturb the divine runes for a while, and they will lose their effect. You can dig a hole and hide in it. Okay. Luli was cheered up. He took out a relic weapon. When the rock glowed, Luli waved the relic weapon. Stone chips were flying in the air. A small hole was dug out easily. Luli even made a turn in the hole and dug out a space for him to sit with his legs crossed. However, Blood Fairy sent him a piece of bad news. Master, you have damaged some of the patterns. I need to fix them. I will need at least half a day. I will help you set up some divine runes to hide your energy. It will be up to your luck whether you are discovered or not. Chapter 25-21. The rock was flying around uncontrollably. Runes were useless for the time being. Luli could only hope that he would not run into anyone during this half a day. Even if he did, he hoped that he would not be discovered. Blood Fairy began to build runes quickly. She was going to build a formation of illusion to cover up the entrance and a field of runes to hide Luli's energy. As long as the entrance could not be found, even if someone were to pass by, it would not be noticed. After all, there were rocks everywhere. The rock flew away quickly. In the time for a few incense sticks to burn, Blood Fairy had built 2 simple runes to cover up the entrance. Then, Blood Fairy began to repair the runes in the stone. If the runes were not repaired, a random attack from someone nearby would shatter the stone, and Luli would be exposed. Luli's luck was not so good. An hour later, he ran into someone. From nearby came a noise. Someone was flying over. Luli did not even dare to use the trace of Tao for fear that the powerful warrior would sense it. Luli restrained his energy and sat in the rock, afraid to move. Whoosh! Maybe the powerful warriors passing by could not use psychic power, or maybe they did not notice the rock. Luli did not expect to see a person hiding in the rock. That person did not mind. He flew past the rock and flew into the distance. Those old bastards are on this level. When that person was gone, Luli wiped the cold sweat off his face. That person's energy was strong. Even though Luli did not check carefully, he could tell that he was a lord. Why was this lord-class expert flying alone? Luli did not get an answer to this question. The rock flew away and Luli did not dwell on it. 2 hours later, Luli ran into another 2 people. He was lucky. Maybe it was because there were so many rocks here and they were fast. The stone disappeared in a flash, intersecting with the 2 of them before flying far away. Luli exhaled again. It seemed that even Lord-level warriors could not release divine glyphs here. The runes here were so strong that they could even suppress lords. This must be a land of treasures created by Saint Emperor. Luli nodded slightly. This place could even suppress the divine inscriptions of Lord-level warriors. Other than the fact that this was a supreme treasure ground created by a Saint Emperor, there was no other explanation. 4 hours later, Blood Fairy said, "It's done, Master. The runes on the stone have been repaired. Later on, I will set up a powerful illusory formation as well as a divine inscriptions dojo to seal your aura. That should be enough, right?" It's about time." Luli nodded slightly. If he was discovered like this, then he could only blame his bad luck. He was slightly relieved. He didn't know if he could get out safely, but at least his safety was guaranteed for the time being. Luli realized that this space was large and there were many stones flying in the air. What surprised him the most was that stones would not collide with each other. Sometimes, when 2 stones were about to collide with each other, the 2 stones would automatically move away. They flew on without encountering anyone else. Blood Fairy spent 6 hours to build a powerful formation of illusion and a divine rune to seal off Luli's energy. From the outside, the stone looked no different from regular stones. Even if someone were nearby, they would not be able to sense Luli's energy. Of course, if the warriors here could use psychic power or had some special skills, they could sense Luli's energy. But that person must be near the stone. The stone was flying all the time. The chances of that happening were slim. Theoretically speaking, as long as Luli's luck was not bad, he should not be discovered. Luli felt bored after such a long time. He simply sat in the stone to cultivate and asked Blood Fairy to help him. Blood Fairy could sense if there were any abnormalities nearby. At the very least, she could sense violent tremors in space or screams. This cultivation lasted for 7 days. Luli felt that time flew by so fast that he didn't even notice it. Today, Blood Fairy sent a message to Luli. She told him that many people were here. Luli used the trace of Tao to sense at once. Indeed, there were many people nearby. He tried to sense and noticed that the energy was still young. It must be Lu Ling, Lin Fengyun, and the others who had entered the dragon opposing abyss. Something is not right. Luli clearly remembered that the stone was flying to the northwest. Why did it come back? Luli did not sense anything. The stone had been changing directions and had come back without him knowing. Luli was not worried about the young people at all. Those people could not see him. The stone flew past them. A warrior of the Lin family even took out a sword and hacked at the stone. Bang! The stone made a muffled sound. That man was pushed back by the strong counterforce. The stone kept flying away. Luli heard the exclamations of the Lin family and some exclamations of admiration. Luli was relieved that the stone flew away. He did not need to worry about the young people. As long as he did not run into any powerful warriors of the older generation, he should be fine. He continued to stay in the boulder, and Blood Fairy continued to explore. Another 3 or 4 days passed, and Blood Fairy did not sense the existence of any exit or passageway. Luli did not mind that Blood Fairy would not send him a message. He continued to cultivate. He would not mind if he had to stay here for a year or 2. Safety came first. He could not fly to find an exit by himself. That would be no different from suicide. Time zipped by. 9 days later, Blood Fairy said, "Master, there are many people out there. They are quite strong." Luli opened his eyes and carefully used the trace of the Great Path to check. Well, there are people, old warriors, and many of them. Luli sensed and stopped moving. He did not have the courage to go further. He could sense it even without the trace of the Great Path because the powerful warriors nearby were horrifying. More importantly, he sensed the might of a rare artifact. The might was so strong that even Luli's soul was trembling. It was like the first time Luli touched the holy weapon fragment. Only, it was 100 times stronger. The chain. Luli did not have to guess to know that the chain must be nearby. Those powerful warriors were tracking the chain. Maybe that unknown demon emperor was here as well. But Luli did not have the courage to check. How strong could a demon emperor be? He would be noticed as soon as he tried to check. Buzzing, a gentle breeze suddenly blew over Luli, which made him tremble. He was hiding in the stone, and there was a seal at the entrance. Where did the breeze come from? The only explanation was that someone had used psychic power to check him, and he was discovered. Whoosh! The stone flew into the distance. Luli was relieved to find that no one was coming after him. Soon, those warriors flew away and so did the stone. Luli checked carefully to make sure that no one was coming after him. He wiped the cold sweat off his face. He was not at ease. For now, no one was coming after him. However, he had been discovered. If those who found him were from the 4 forces, it was only a matter of time before he was hunted down. This was a treasured land that belonged to the 4 forces. They would not allow anyone to touch it. Chapter 25-22. Luli spent the rest of the time in fear. He was worried that a powerful warrior of the Lord Realm would catch up with him, smash the rock, and then kill him. What he worried about didn't happen. The next 3 days were peaceful. Maybe it was because the powerful warrior noticed that Luli was chasing after the chain? Or maybe the powerful warrior didn't see where Luli was. Either way, if the powerful warrior didn't catch up with Luli in 3 days, then he should be safe for now. Luli didn't cultivate anymore. He had been checking the surroundings carefully. He wanted to find an exit and leave as soon as possible. He was dancing on the tip of a knife. He could die at any moment. It was better to leave as soon as possible. The void here was vast. Maybe the rock was going in circles as well. Luli had been flying for a long time, but he didn't see the edge of the region. It was as if the world was boundless. Another day later, Luli ran into Lu Ling, Lin Fengyun and the others at the Dragon Rebel Abyss. He was sure that the rock was going in circles. It seemed to be flying in a straight line, but it was just an illusion. The rock had been going in circles, or else it wouldn't have been so easy to run into Lu Ling and the others. The young man didn't mind. Those warriors couldn't see him yet. This group of people was flying at a high speed, keeping a certain distance from each other. The Fan family, the Lin family, and the Water Cloud Palace were closer to each other. It was obvious that the three forces were guarding against the Dragon Rebel clan in secret. The rock passed by the three teams and flew into the distance. Those warriors didn't pay attention to the rock at all. There were rocks everywhere. The rocks couldn't be broken, and there was nothing special about them. Nobody would pay attention to them. Another 4 days passed. Luli still hadn't found the exit. The exit on this level should be well hidden and hard to find. Otherwise, he would have found it after such a long time. Can it be inside a rock? Luli thought of a possibility. Apart from the void, there were only rocks on this level. If the exit was above the void, then it would be easy to find. If it was not above the void, then it must be inside a rock. Luli began to sense the rocks around him to see if there were any special movements in them. That would be difficult, but if he didn't try, he would never find it. Another 3 days passed by. Luli bumped into those warriors again. Luli could feel the might of the chains from afar and the suffocating energy of those powerful warriors. Luli did not feel the might of the Demon Emperor. Theoretically speaking, the might of a powerful warrior of the Great Emperor realm should be horrifying. Luli should be suffocated by the might of an emperor. However, Luli did not feel any trace of the might of an emperor. Could it be that the one chasing after the giant chains isn't the nameless demon Larch? Luli was confused, but he did not dare to use the trace of Tao to check. He tried his best to hide his energy and prayed that he would not be noticed. Boom! Suddenly, a huge palm slammed onto the boulder. Although the boulder did not explode, it was pushed back. Even though Luli's palm was protected by the runes on the boulder, the power of the palm still made Luli's blood tumble. His face was full of surprise. Had he been discovered? Did someone want to smash the stone to kill him? He couldn't care so much anymore. He immediately activated the mark of the Great Path to sense the situation around him. Images appeared in his mind. The first thing that came to Luli's mind was a huge golden chain. It was not a real chain, but a shadow. It was more than 1,000 feet long and thicker than Luli's head. It emitted an indescribable pressure that made Luli's soul tremble. Behind the huge golden chain was a handsome man wearing a green robe. This man looked somewhat feminine and had a head of beautiful green hair. He did not have any aura on him, and his figure was elegant as he chased after the huge golden chain. The Nameless Demon Emperor. Luli had heard about this Nameless Demon Emperor. He knew it was him at once. He knew why he did not feel the might of an emperor before. The Nameless Demon Emperor hid his energy. Nobody could tell that he was a powerful warrior of the Great Emperor realm without knowing about him. While Luli was trying to sense the Nameless Demon Emperor, the Nameless Demon Emperor suddenly threw him a glance. Luli felt that the Nameless Demon Emperor could see through the runes on the boulder, his body and his soul. Luli trembled. The Nameless Demon Emperor's eyes were horrifying. It was as if he could see through all of Luli's secrets. But the Nameless Demon Emperor only threw a glance at Luli and then looked away as if Luli was just an ant, not worthy of his attention. There were dozens of warriors behind the Nameless Demon Emperor, including quite a number of lords. But nobody paid attention to Luli. Everyone was focused on the golden chain, not the boulder. Who did it? Luli could not figure it out. Was it the Nameless Demon Emperor? However, the Nameless Demon Larch possessed incredible combat strength. If he was the one who attacked, the stone would have already exploded, right? The others did not pay attention to the boulder. Could it be that the boulder was smashed away by a lord? Since nobody was paying attention to him and nobody seemed to be trying to attack him, Luli would not be so silly as to continue his investigation. He stopped using the mark of the Great Path in case other powerful warriors could sense it. However, what happened next scared Luli so much that he trembled. The golden chain slid in an arc and flew toward the boulder he was on. It buried itself into the boulder. The moment the golden chain came in, Luli felt as if he had turned into a child hiding in a cave, and then a huge dragon came out of the cave. Swish, 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 the gazes of the dozens of people outside all turned to look at the boulder. A Lin family lord suddenly let out a surprised cry. There is a breath of life in the boulder. Yes, there is a breath of life in the boulder. I think there is a person inside. A powerful warrior of the dragon rebel race said. They didn't pay attention to the boulder before. Now that they sensed it carefully, they noticed something. But because psychic power was restricted here, or the runes on the boulder were strong, they could not sense it clearly. Luli's heart sank to the bottom when he heard the words of the people outside. He had been discovered. It would be hard for him to escape this time. In the sky and on the ground there was nowhere for him to run. Nobody could save him. Even if Lu Ling were to beg the powerful warriors of the dragon rebel race, they would not be able to protect him. Luli had no time to worry about the powerful warriors outside. The huge chain had snuck in and was coming toward him. The pressure almost turned Luli into a boneless maggot. He is dead. He is dead. Chapter 25-23. The rune didn't crush Luli to death, but he was like a curled-up earthworm. He couldn't even move his fingers. He could only watch as the golden chain rushed toward him. 300 feet. Luli's bones were cracking. His blood was tumbling and he had stopped breathing. The dragon's soul in his soul was glowing. He was agitated and fearful. His soul was trembling violently. 100 feet. Bang, 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 bang. Many bones in Luli's body were crushed. He was bleeding from his eyes, ears, nose and mouth. The power of the golden chain was horrifying. Strong as Luli was, it was not enough. I am dead, I am dead. Luli's bones were cracking when he was still 100 feet away. His soul seemed to be on the verge of collapse. The dragon's soul was moving around, but it could not stabilize his soul. 5 feet. Right when Luli thought he was doomed for sure, the traces of the great path in his body began to move on their own. The more than 3,000 traces of the great path glowed faintly and wandered around inside his body. To his surprise, they helped him fend off the might of the chains. When the traces of the great path were activated, the golden chain began to tremble. Then, it sped up and dashed toward Luli in a blur. Boom! Under the suppression of the might of the chain, Luli could not stand it any longer. He passed out. The golden chain reached Luli and then penetrated into his body. The golden chain was the size of a human being and was more than 1,000 feet long. But it was only a shadow. When the front part of the golden chain entered Luli's body, the back part followed. The golden chain with a length of more than 1,000 feet rushed into Luli's body and disappeared in the end. The unknown demon king seemed to be able to see into the rocks. He was taken aback, but he did not break the rocks or attack Luli. He opened one hand and condensed an invisible divine power to imprison the boulder. What? The group of experts surrounding them were also stunned. In the past, when the golden chain went into the stone, it would come out soon. This time, it did not come out. It was hiding in the stone. There was a person in the stone. Was it a powerful warrior hiding in there who was trying to take control of the golden chain? There were still some people from the 4 great powers who weren't here. Could they be experts from the 4 great powers? The nameless demon Tharch didn't attack but stood near the rock. No one dared to attack either. They stood nearby in silence and waited for the nameless demon Thiarka's next move. Some people vaguely guessed what this giant golden chain was, but most people still didn't know. They only knew that it was a treasure of the world. The reason why they had been chasing was because the nameless demon Tharch had said that the treasure would belong to whoever could subdue it. He would never snatch it. The group of people had been following the nameless demon Tharch. Firstly, it was because of this treasure of heaven and earth. Secondly, they wanted to follow the nameless demon Tharch. He wanted to observe and learn from an Emperor-class powerhouse's methods. If he could gain some insights, it would be better than obtaining any treasures. A moment later, the nameless demon Tharch revealed a look of surprise again. He murmured in a voice that only he could hear, "This kid actually trapped the god sequence chains." The golden chain went into Lu Li's body. It had shrunk to dozens of times, turning into a small golden dragon that was moving around in Lu Li's body. The dragon had been trying to get out, but the more than 3,000 traces of the Great Path were moving quickly. They formed a cage that trapped the golden chain inside Lu Li's body. Lu Li had passed out. He had no idea what was going on. Even if he did, he couldn't control it. The giant golden chain scuttled around in his body, but it couldn't escape. The more than 3,000 traces of the Great Path were shrinking. The range of movement of the golden chain was shrinking as well. Interesting. The nameless demon Tharch was curious. He had a clear sense of Lu Li's situation. Lu Li was just a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation. Even though Lu Li had cultivated an immortal body, Lu Li was no different from an ant to the nameless demon Tharch. The nameless demon Tharch had been chasing after Lu Li for a long time and had tried many ways but failed to take control of the golden chain. Now it was trapped by an insignificant warrior? How could he not be curious about such a strange thing? Time moved on. The nameless demon Tharch was not in a hurry. He didn't move, nor did the others. The nameless demon Tharch was standing right next to the rock. Who dared to attack him? What if the nameless demon Tharch was hit by any shockwave? The nameless demon Tharch kept staring at the rock. The others could sense something, but they could not tell what was going on inside. Only a few of them could tell that there was a person inside, but they could not tell who it was. After the time for one incense stick to burn, the nameless demon Tharch's eyes glowed. He was even more surprised. The more than 3,000 traces of the Great Path in Lu Li's body had turned the golden chain. No, it had become a small golden chain. The 3,000 traces of the Great Path had entangled the small golden chain. Now the small golden chain could not move. The traces of the Great Path had begun to corrode the small golden chain, or to be exact, to devour it. One of the traces of the Great Path gave out a holy glow that devoured the small golden chain bit by bit. At the same time, the trace of the Great Path began to turn golden. What is that? The nameless demon Tharch was surprised. He was experienced and knowledgeable, but he had never seen the traces of the Great Path in Lu Li's body. More importantly, the nameless demon Tharch could not understand how a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation could have such strange means. Another hour passed. The small golden chain was completely devoured, and one of the traces of the Great Path had turned golden as well. The 3,000 traces of the Great Path wandered back to where Lu Li carved them. Lu Li's body had calmed down. His body's self-healing ability began to work. Lu Li's wounds began to heal. What a marvelous technique! The nameless demon Tharch murmured. From the beginning to the end, he did not take any action. There was no killing intent in his eyes. Instead, he was exclaiming. After a moment of thought, he suddenly opened his hand and swept toward the rock. Buzzing, a ripple spread out. The rock gradually shrank. In the end, the nameless demon Tharch grabbed it in his hand. The nameless demon Tharch turned to the others nearby and said, "Treasures in heaven and earth belong to the fated. We are not fated. Don't force it. I will leave now. Take your time to explore. This is indeed a land of treasures refined by a saint emperor. Explore it carefully." Maybe you will all gain something. Whoosh. With that said, the nameless demon Tharch vanished into the distance with the rock in his hand. In an instant, he vanished without a trace. The others looked at each other, confused. What did the nameless demon Tharch mean? Didn't he bring this stone because he wanted to slowly refine the sky-spanning giant chain? Why did he say that they were not fated? But what the nameless demon Tharch said next shocked everyone. The words of a powerful warrior of the great Emperor realm could be trusted. It was confirmed that this was a land of treasures refined by a saint emperor. If they could explore it carefully, there was a chance that they could gain something. Chapter 25-24. Luli didn't know how long he had slept, whether it was 2 hours or several hours, or days and nights. When he woke up, he couldn't move at all. His bones hadn't healed yet. He was in so much pain that he was smoking. Out of instinct, he tried to use psychic power. To his surprise, he could use it again. He was lying on the peak of a hill. Next to him was a green-haired young man. The green-haired young man was extremely handsome. At this moment, he was standing by himself leisurely. In his hand was a jar of wine, and he was leisurely drinking it. "You are awake?" The green-haired young man did not look at Luli. Instead, he gazed at the mountains and rivers in the distance. There was no energy coming from him. He seemed to be an average person. Nameless demon emperor. Luli was taken aback. He made up his mind. He struggled to get up, clasped his fists and said, "Lord, I am Luli." Because his bones had not completely healed, any movement would cause his mouth to twitch in pain. At this moment, he was barely standing, but his whole body was trembling, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. He had to do this out of respect for a powerful warrior and for his own life. If a great emperor offended him with any disrespect, Luli could be killed as easily as crushing an ant. The nameless demon emperor said nothing. He did not seem to notice that Luli was trembling. Luli kept bowing and remained in the posture of worship. The nameless demon emperor kept on drinking. After the time for one incense stick to burn, he turned around and said, "Sit down. If I want to kill you, it doesn't matter whether you salute or not." Luli was relieved. It seemed that the nameless demon emperor would not kill him. Luli stopped being pretentious. He controlled his body to sit with his legs crossed. He used psychic power to check and was surprised. "Lord, are we outside the land of treasure?" "Yes." The nameless demon emperor nodded. "I have brought you out. What, do you want to keep exploring? You have obtained the most valuable treasure in this land of treasure. Are you still not satisfied?" Luli was shocked, confused. He thought about it but did not rush to ask. Instead, he checked his body. Looking inside his body, he discovered that apart from many broken bones, there was nothing different in his body. No. He recalled what happened before he fainted. He was shocked. It was as if the golden chain had rushed into his body. Since he didn't die, was the golden chain still in his body? He probed again and quickly discovered that something was different. Among the more than 3,000 great path marks that were inscribed in his body, one of them had actually turned dark gold. His eyes widened as though he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. He looked at the nameless demon Tharch and asked, "Sir, what's going on?" "Those things are called God sequence chains." The nameless demon Tharch explained, "You wouldn't understand what a God sequence chain is even if I explained it to you now. You can understand it this way. This thing is one of the most mysterious and powerful treasures in the world. How do you use it? How to refine it? Don't ask me, I don't know either, because I've never obtained it before. I've only read some historical records." God sequence chains. Luli was shocked again. Not to mention anything else, he could feel the preciousness of this thing just from these 4 words. The nameless demon Tharch also said that this was one of the most mysterious and powerful treasures in the world. Luli didn't even know how to use it or how to refine it. A treasure that even a warrior of the great Emperor realm didn't know how to use must be more powerful than a holy weapon. Wait a minute. Luli suddenly remembered that an innocent man would get into trouble because of his wealth. If the outside world knew about this treasure, there would be no place for him in the third heaven or even the entire world. What was more, the nameless demon Dharch had been after the chain for a long time and failed to subdue it. Now that Luli had it, would the nameless demon Dharch take it away? What? In a split of a second, Luli made up his mind. Sir, it is a waste to keep the chain with me. I am not powerful enough and I don't think I can take control of it. How about, sir, you take this thing out of my body? I don't think I will be able to sleep well when I have it with me. Sooner or later, I will be torn into pieces. Ha ha ha. Luli's words amused the nameless demon Dharch. The nameless demon Dharch squinted at Luli, took a sip of wine and said, You no fear now? You are bold enough to sneak into that land of treasure. Aren't you afraid that the four forces will hunt you down? With your pitiful strength, any lord would be able to kill you in one move. Ha ha! Luli smiled embarrassedly. He had a good impression of the nameless demon Dharch. He didn't feel pressured when facing a super important figure. Instead, Luli found the nameless demon Dharch amiable. Luli said with a smile, I went in to look for someone. I didn't intend to get any treasures. You know that I hid in the rock because I was afraid that someone would find me. I wanted to sneak away. It is all thanks to you that I managed to come out. Otherwise, I would have been killed by the four forces. Sir, I'm sincere. Please get this thing out of my body. Otherwise, I'll definitely be torn to shreds by the people from the four great powers. Don't worry. They don't know. The nameless demon Dharch waved his hand and said, The four forces will think that I have it and they don't know about you. They can't sense your situation. So, you are safe for now. Of course, unless you show off to the world that you have the divine chains of order. In that case, there is nothing you can do. What? Luli was confused. The nameless demon Dharch didn't seem to want the divine chains of order. Was he not tempted at all? The nameless demon Dharch seemed to have read Luli's mind. He said, I have been tracking the divine chains of order for a long time, and I have tried many ways. But I failed. Since they have chosen you, then they are not meant to be with me. If so, why do I have to force it? Everything has its own destiny. Only by being indifferent can one be free and unfettered. The breeze was gentle. The nameless demon emperor's cyan robe danced in the wind. His green hair danced in the wind. His handsome face was calm and at ease. Luli was impressed by his temperament and grace. Luli took 2 healing pellets and sat down. He cupped his fists and said, Lord, can you tell me your name? I am not talented. In the future, if I can achieve something, I will repay your kindness. Ha ha! The nameless demon Dharch smiled indifferently and waved his hand. I've forgotten my own name. Let's not talk about this. The reason why I brought you out is that I'm curious about the thousands of heaven god patterns in your body. Marks of the great Tao. Luli thought about it. Eventually, he told the nameless demon Dharch in detail how he carved the marks of the great Tao. The nameless demon Dharch listened carefully. Chapter 25-25. The nameless demon emperor left. He might have brought Luli out because he wanted to ask Luli about the traces of the great Tao, or he didn't want the four forces to get the chains of order. He said nothing after he asked Luli a few questions. He waved his hand and vanished on the spot, not caring that Luli was still injured. After the nameless demon emperor left, Luli hurried to heal himself. He must leave as soon as possible. If the four forces found out, he would be in big trouble. Needless to say, when Shueyuero and the others came out, they would mobilize forces from the Hall of Watercloud to hunt him down. He had killed so many warriors of the Hall of Watercloud and challenged the dignity of the Hall of Watercloud. It could even be said that he had humiliated the Hall of Watercloud. Luli consumed some elixirs and healed himself. In half a day, he had recovered more than half of his strength. He didn't dare to stay any longer. He changed his looks with the shape-shifting mask and flew away. He picked a random direction to look for a city. He had made a deal with Tianyazi. Tianyazi must be waiting for him nearby. There was a small city nearby. Luli used teleportation formations for more than a dozen times and settled down in a middle-sized city. He left a mark outside the tavern and waited in there. He didn't have to wait too long. After a day and a half, the castle's door was opened and a figure flashed in. He wore a loose Taoist robe and had a white beard. His face was filled with kindness. Who else could it be but Tianyazi? Brother! Luli stood up at once, as if he had seen a family member. Tianyazi had helped him without reservation, which made Luli grateful. Tianyazi walked in casually. He took out 2 jars of wine and handed one to Luli. How is it, Lu? Did you get anything? Did you see your sister? Also, how did you get out? Actually, Luli had been struggling over the past couple of days. He wondered if he should tell Tianyazi about the chains of order. It was too important. If word got out, Luli would be in big trouble. But Tianyazi had been so kind to him. Luli would feel guilty if he kept it a secret. Looking at Tianyazi's sincere eyes, Luli was touched. He decided to tell Tianyazi everything. If Tianyazi wanted to harm him and steal the God Sequence chains, then he would just have to admit that he had misjudged him. Yes, I did. I've gained a lot too. Luli took a deep breath and told her everything that happened after he went in without leaving anything out, including how he killed warriors of the Hall of Watercloud, the nameless demon emperor and the chains of order. After listening, Tianyazi was moved. He then struck out a stream of divine power to activate the divine rune restriction of the castle. He pondered for a moment and asked, Little Lu, apart from the nameless demon Monarch, you didn't tell anyone else about this, right? Yes. Luli nodded and said, I only told you, big brother. Actually, you shouldn't have even told me about this. Tianyazi said solemnly. Big brother is very grateful for your trust, but this matter is too big. Once it gets out, even the nameless demon emperor can't protect you, let alone me. Thank you, big brother. Luli was touched. He was right about Tianyazi. Tianyazi didn't have any intention of competing with him. Instead, Tianyazi was always thinking about Luli. This man was truly good to Luli. Good, Tianyazi said with a smile. You really are a man of great fortune. I don't know much about the God Sequence chains, but since the nameless demon emperor said so, it must be a treasure that can transform your abilities. Work hard. In the future, you may surpass me. When you become an Emperor Realm warrior, you must take care of the Hua family. Big brother, you know what kind of person I am. Luli said seriously, to me, you are my big brother, and the Hua family is my second home. If I can achieve something, the Hua family's business will be my business. Ha ha ha. Tianyazi laughed. He patted Luli's shoulder affectionately and said, Little Lu, I was right about you. Well, you did the right thing about your sister. She is valued by the Dragon Rebel race. I heard that she has something to do with the Dragon Rebel race. Also, when she becomes a Lord Warrior, the seal on her memory will be unlocked. She will come to you. Okay, what is your plan now? Are you going back to your hometown or cultivating in the third heaven? Well, I have something to say. The Hua family welcomes you. If you come, you will be treated like a patriarch with real power. If you don't want to, it's okay. You can live on the Great Buddha Mountain however you like. Tianyazi's honesty made Luli feel comfortable. He thought about it and said, Big brother, does the Hua family have an honorary patriarch? If not, an honorary deacon will do. I don't want a patriarch with real power. In the future, as long as I can do something for the Hua family, I will not say no. I want to go back to the second heaven. As for my future, I haven't decided yet. Maybe I will feel bored living in the second heaven for dozens of years, and then I will go back to the third heaven. Okay, then I will be an honorary patriarch. Tian Yazi made up his mind. He thought about it and said, I suggest you go to the Great Buddha Mountain and live for a while. First of all, keep a low profile for a while. When this storm blows over, at least the water cloud hall will stop tracking you down. Second, you can reach the fourth tribulation at the Great Buddha Mountain. Also, we have a place where you can refine your body. You can cultivate there for a while. Okay. Thank you, big brother. Luli thought about it and thought Tian Yazi was right. He was in the limelight now. The Water Cloud Hall, Fan family and Lin family would track him down soon. Tian Yazi couldn't escort him to the second heaven. Even if Tian Yazi wanted to, Luli wouldn't agree. He was not a kid anymore. His comprehensive abilities were comparable to those of the fifth tribulation. He could protect himself. Also, it would be easier for him to go through the fourth heaven tribulation with Tian Yazi's help. At the fourth heaven tribulation, his comprehensive abilities would be improved and he wouldn't stand out so much. Otherwise, if he could kill warriors of the fifth tribulation as a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation, he would attract too much attention. The Asmodean Lord was looking after the second heaven. Nothing should go wrong. He had been out for so many years anyway. Another 8 or 10 years didn't matter. He needed time to explore the divine chains of order. If he could use them, his abilities might soar. Then let's go. Tian Yazi led Luli out. Outside, Tian Yazi changed his look. At the same time, he restrained his qi and energy so that he was only at the fifth tribulation. In this way, he wouldn't stand out. He stepped into the teleportation formation with Luli. After teleporting for more than 10 times, they arrived at a manor outside a small town. This was a secret base of the Hua family. The space gate here had been set up. Tian Yazi led Luli to the Great Buddha Mountain. Chapter 25-26. During the 2 months, Luli didn't step out of the door. He had been cultivating in the castle of the ethereal cliff. Apart from the few people in power in the Hua family, nobody else knew that Luli had returned to the Great Buddha Mountain. Many people had forgotten about Luli's existence. The exploration at Mount Yuding had not ended yet, but the young people had all come out. Out of the 120 young people who had entered, only 60 or 70 came out. It could be said that they had suffered heavy casualties. Especially at the back of the Water Cloud Hall, there were even casualties. Only 4 people managed to make it out alive. The Hall of Water Cloud began to investigate secretly as well. They searched for information about Luli and his whereabouts. Lin family and Fan family sent people to search as well. None of them found any trace of Luli. They searched several floors to no avail. They all suspected that Luli had come out. When the Dragon Rebel race came out, they sent the message to the Dragon Rebel flying team. Seeing that Lu Ling was in low spirits, the Dragon Rebel flying team flew into a rage. They ordered their subordinates to search for Luli as well. Tian Yazi went to Luli's room after he got the accurate information. He came straight to the point and said, "You may need to hide for a while. Many people know that you opened the portal to the Great Buddha Mountain from the Dragon Rebel Valley. I think they will come to the Great Buddha Mountain soon. Our Hua family also has spies bribed by the major powers, so it's not safe for you to stay here." And Luli nodded. The Hua family was powerful, but not even the Hua family could stand against the alliance of the 4 forces. The Hua family would not fight against the 4 forces for the sake of Luli. He nodded and said, "All right, I'll leave now and head to the Silver Flame Sea region." "You've misunderstood." Tian Yazi waved his hand. "I don't mean for you to leave the Hua clan, but to go to one of our secret realms. I've told you before that the mystic realm is very suitable for tempering your body. It's also often sealed. I've arranged for someone to arrange it for you. During this time, the family won't arrange for anyone to go in. You can go into seclusion for a period of time. You'll be fine after this gust of wind passes. This, Luli asked with concern. Brother, will you and the whole family get into trouble? Ah, Tian Yazi proudly said, you're looking down on your big brother too much. Don't worry, they won't dare to rashly start a war with our Hua clan as long as they don't have conclusive evidence. Furthermore, you killed a few young disciples from Water Cloud Hall. That's not a big deal. All right. Looking at Tian Yazi's confident expression, Luli decided not to be pretentious. Given the current situation, even if he went to the Silver Flame Sea region, he would most likely be hunted down by the experts dispatched by the Water Cloud Hall. It would be better for him to lie low for a while. Tian Yazi arranged for him to enter a castle, and then teleported away through the castle's teleportation array. After a flash of white light, Luli found himself in a strange world. This world was a world of water. After he entered, he appeared on a small island. Outside the island was a sea. The sea here was different from ordinary seas. The seawater here was a grayish-gold color, and the waves were extremely terrifying. There was a divine rune barrier around the island, and the seawater constantly smashed against the barrier, creating sounds of metal cracking. We call this mystic realm the Gold Water Realm. A patriarch that showed Luli and explained, the seawater here is a special kind of golden water. It is very dense and strong. Average warriors at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation would be shocked to death by the wave. This has always been a place for warriors above the middle stage of the fourth tribulation to refine their bodies. There is a huge whirlpool in the center. The closer you are to the whirlpool, the more horrifying the waves will be. Patriarch Lu, I suggest you refine your body on the periphery first and then move toward the center. You cannot go to the center unless your body is as strong as that of the Lord Realm. Luli nodded. Since it was a gradual process, then it shouldn't be a problem. He nodded to the old man who took him to a teleportation formation. Luli disappeared as soon as he stepped in. He found himself on another small island. But there was no divine rune barrier on this island, and the waves would come in from time to time. Before Luli could check, he was hit by the waves. Bang! Luli was smashed away. He wasn't injured, but he felt his blood was tumbling. There seemed to be a mysterious force entering his body. Luli felt he was being bitten by ants. This is good. Luli felt refreshed. His muscles were being bitten by ants, which meant that his muscles were being refined. In other words, his muscles were being refined and would grow stronger. Luli sensed that the Xian Qi in heaven and earth was strong as well. This was a good place for cultivation. Luli flew up and dived into the sea. Splash, 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 waves kept falling on him. This time, Luli was prepared. He stood still and let the waves beat him. With each wave, more and more mysterious energy surged into Luli's body. He felt like he was being bitten by ants, numb and painful at the same time. This pain was nothing for Luli. He didn't mind. He stood in the sea for a while, and then sat down with his legs crossed, letting the waves beat him like a rock. After sitting for 2 hours, Luli was confident. This was indeed a land of treasures, a good place for the Hua family. Only the higher-ups or the top disciples of the Hua family were qualified to come here. Luli walked on the waves. The current intensity was too low. He needed to refine at a higher intensity. As long as his body could stand it, he would be fine with some injuries. He flew for the time for one incense stick to burn. The waves were getting stronger. But Luli could stand it, so he kept on. After the time for one incense stick to burn, the waves were 100 times stronger than before. Luli could not stand it anymore. Every time, he would be smashed away by the waves. This is it. Luli sat with his legs crossed and floated in the sea. The waves would beat him over and over again. Every time, he would move for dozens of feet. His chi and blood would tremble, but he was not injured. At first, Luli found it hard to cultivate quietly. But gradually, he got used to it. He ignored the waves and focused on cultivating divine energy. At the same time, he began to think of a way to dissolve that divine chain of order. He had been studying for 2 months, but to no avail. He couldn't move or activate these God sequence chains either. Even though it was inside his body, he felt it had nothing to do with him. He was not in a hurry. If the chain could be dissolved and activated at will, then it would be of little use. Not even the nameless demon emperor knew how to dissolve it or use it. It was a testament to the power and abstruseness of the chain. Luli decided to study the trace of the Great Tao first. Since the chain had become a part of the trace of the Great Tao, he might be able to activate it when he could have a deeper understanding of the trace of the Great Tao. Splash, splash, splash. Chapter 25-27. When Luli entered the Gold Water region, people were searching for him everywhere. The 4 forces had mobilized many people to track down Luli. The Hall of Watercloud, in particular, had sent out many scouts to search for him. Under the investigation of many scouts, the relationship between Luli and the Hua family soon caught the attention of the 4 forces. They mobilized many forces as well, including spies in the Hua family for information. Luckily, Tian Yazi had made arrangements. The Hua family told the public that Luli had left the Hua family and his whereabouts were unknown. This information was sent out by spies in the Hua family. Even though the 4 forces had some doubts, nobody dared to start a war without solid evidence. It was not worthwhile to start a war with a super race over such a trivial matter. Lu Ling and the others went back to the Dragon Rebel Valley. The first few levels of the Land of Treasures did not yield much. Lu Ling and the others were not powerful enough to go to the deeper levels. Therefore, the young disciples of the 4 forces were sent out. The older ones went on to explore the deeper levels. The nameless demon emperor said as well that this was a land of treasures refined by a saint emperor. There were many Tao patterns and treasures left by the saint emperor. If they were lucky enough, they could find some great opportunities and have a chance to soar into the sky. Half a year later, a piece of news came out from the Land of Treasures, which shocked the 4 forces. A Lord-level warrior of the Dragon Rebel clan found a sacred steel in there, which attracted the warriors of the other 3 clans. The warrior of the Dragon Rebel clan was attacked by the 3 great warriors together, but he was unwilling to hand over the sacred steel. In the end, the powerful warrior of the Dragon Rebel race was killed by the 3. But before he died, he smashed the holy tablet. The other powerful warriors of the Dragon Rebel race were enraged. They fought against the warriors of the 3 forces. Eventually, most of them died. Only 5 escaped. When the news came out, the most powerful warriors of the Dragon Rebel race flew into a rage. They turned out in full strength and went to the Yu Ting Mountain. Then, they attacked the powerful warriors of the 3 alien races guarding the Yu Ting Mountain. The experts of the 3 clans guarding Mount Yu Ting were not many. Since all the experts of the Dragon Rebel clan had come out, the experts of the 3 clans were caught unprepared. Over 100 of them were killed by the Dragon Rebel clan, and the rest had to flee in a hurry. Infuriated, the Dragon Rebel tribe massacred thousands of people of the 3 clans. Their warriors killed more than 100 people. The news spread quickly and caused a great disturbance. Was the Dragon Rebel clan going to fight against the 3 forces by itself? When the small and medium-sized forces in the vicinity received the news, they all trembled in fear. If the 4 great forces were to fight to the death, how large would the scope of the impact be? Once the 3 forces joined hands, would the Dragon Rebel clan and the forces affiliated to the Dragon Rebel clan be wiped out? The Dragon Rebel clan had occupied Yu Tingshan, but they weren't in a hurry to retreat. Instead, they gathered divine rune masters and started to practice divine runes here. It seemed they were going to take Yu Tingshan for themselves. At the same time, the Dragon Rebel clan had mobilized countless experts of their vassal forces to guard the Yuting Mountain. Apparently, they were ready to fight a life-and-death battle with the three forces there. The Yuting Mountain was very important, and there were many treasures in it. There were many relics of Saint Emperors. How could the three factions give up on such an important place? The patriarchs and leaders of the three great forces immediately gathered together and quickly formed an alliance and came to an agreement. They were going to cripple or injure the Dragon Rebel clan with the strength of the three forces. If possible, they would wipe out the Dragon Rebel clan and take over the Dragon Rebel Valley. The Dragon Rebel clan was one of the 10 holy clans in the ancient times. For millions of years, the Dragon Rebel Valley had been the headquarters of the Dragon Rebel clan. How many treasures, divine materials, and wealth were stored in the Dragon Rebel Valley? It was impossible to estimate. If they could wipe out the Dragon Rebel clan this time, the harvest would be enough to elevate the three forces to a higher level. How could they miss such a good opportunity? As soon as the alliance of the three forces was established, the hundreds of territories in the vicinity immediately felt like a storm was brewing. The atmosphere was extremely oppressive. The three forces wouldn't start the war in a hurry. They would settle the war in one fell swoop after making a good plan. Countless experts began to gather in secret. Countless troops were gathering at Yutingshan. At the same time, the Dragon Rebel clan was also mobilizing their troop. It was obvious that they were going to fight the three forces at Yutingshan. When the news spread, the entire Flying Fire continent was shocked. The Dragon Rebel clan was strong, but they didn't have an Emperor-level expert. They did have a few Emperor-level experts, but how could they fight against 2 Emperor-level experts from the Lin family and the Fan family? The Dragon Rebel clan's comprehensive strength was stronger than the three forces. The problem was that they didn't have the ability to fight against the three forces on their own. If so, why was the Dragon Rebel clan still guarding Yutingshan? Could it be that he was tired of living and wanted to court death? Anyway, all the forces on the Flying Fire continent were attracted here. This war would affect the future of the Flying Fire continent. Many forces wanted a share. If the Dragon Rebel clan was going to be wiped out, many forces wouldn't mind adding fuel to the fire and looting the Dragon Rebel clan's wealth. Countless scouts swarmed toward Yutingshan. Many of them stayed outside the Dragon Rebel Valley, observing the Dragon Rebel clan's every move. Everyone in the Dragon Rebel Valley was in a panic because the Dragon Rebel clan had started to relocate their young elite disciples. Some of the children had been moved to the secret realm. Since the Dragon Rebel clan had started to plan for a way out, it meant that their leaders were not sure they could win this war, and they were determined to fight to the death. The Dragon Rebel clan wouldn't be so worried if they were fighting against 2 forces on their own. But now they had to fight against 3 forces. For many average members of the Dragon Rebel clan, this was a foolish decision. The thing was, the clan leader had made up his mind and nobody could change it. They had to obey. There must be something behind this. When Tian Yazi received the news, he wanted to tell Luli. After all, she was a member of the Dragon Rebel clan. But on second thoughts, Tian Yazi decided not to disturb Luli. Tian Yazi believed that the clan leader of the Dragon Rebel clan was not an idiot. Even if he was the only one, the other leaders of the Dragon Rebel clan were not. They knew they could not win, but they still wanted to fight to the death. This was strange to begin with. The Dragon Rebel clan had survived for millions of years. If the clan leader and the leaders were all idiots, the Dragon Rebel clan would have been wiped out a long time ago. Therefore, Tian Yazi decided to wait and see. Many scouts of the Hua family were sent out to gather information. As a matter of fact, Tian Yazi was not the only one. Many other forces, including the 3 forces, suspected that the Dragon Rebel clan had something else to rely on. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so crazy. Saint Emperor's land of treasure was important, but it was insignificant compared to the survival of the race. The Dragon Rebel clan would not put themselves in such danger just for a land of treasure. Time passed by quickly. The three forces mobilized more powerful warriors and armies. 3 months later, there were 5 million warriors gathered outside the Yu-Ting mountain. The weakest among them was at the peak of the third tribulation. Almost all the powerful warriors of the three affiliated forces were here. Gates were opened one after another at the Yu-Ting mountain. Almost 1 million warriors and powerful warriors were mobilized. Most of the powerful warriors of the Dragon Rebel clan were here. Over at the Dragon Rebel Valley, powerful formations of divine patterns were activated. The three forces turned to the Yu-Ting mountain. The divine patterns of the Dragon Rebel Valley were too strong. It would be difficult to breach it in a short time. Also, if the powerful warriors of the Dragon Rebel clan were not killed, breaching the Dragon Rebel Valley would be pointless. If the three forces attacked the Dragon Rebel Valley, the powerful warriors of the Dragon Rebel clan could attack the base camp of the three forces. Therefore, the most important thing was to kill the powerful warriors of the Dragon Rebel clan. Chapter 25-28. The war broke out in the end without any surprises. The strong warriors of the three forces were conservative. They didn't send all of them. They only sent some of their strong warriors to press forward with the army. They didn't attack from all directions at the same time, but from one direction. The strong warriors of the three forces were holding the rear. It was said that the strong warriors of the Lin family and the Fan family were both on the move, but they didn't show up. They were ready to attack at the critical moment. Tens of thousands of scouts were wandering around. Their every move would be monitored. It was impossible for a hidden army to launch a surprise attack. Even if a strong force opened the space gate, how many people could come through the space gate at once? No more than 100 people. Therefore, the three forces weren't afraid of a surprise attack from a strong force. Besides, so what if it was a surprise attack? Unless the Dragon Rebel clan could invite 2 super forces, the three forces wouldn't be afraid at all. Recently, the intelligence hall of the three forces had been active. All the forces on the Flying Fire continent had been monitoring them, but they didn't find anything unusual. The army pressed forward slowly. Soon, the war broke out. Both sides mobilized a large number of troops to fight fiercely at the foot of Yu-Ting mountain. Facing such a large-scale war, all schemes and tricks were meaningless. Even if you deployed some hidden divine glyphs or used some miraculous divine weapons, how many people could you kill? Neither side sent out strong warriors. It was just the sergeants fighting fiercely. Hundreds of thousands of sergeants fought fiercely at the foot of Yu-Ting mountain. Soon, the foot of Yu-Ting mountain was flooded with blood. The casualties were great. 3 days. After 3 days of bloody fighting, the casualties at the foot of Yu-Ting mountain were more than 500,000. The number of casualties on both sides was about the same. Both sides had lost some experts of the fifth tribulation, but none of the lords had joined the battle. Both sides knew that this was just the appetizer. The real battle would be the bloody battle between the overlords. Once too many experts died, the battle would be over. The strong warriors of the three forces still hadn't joined the battle. They felt something was wrong, but they couldn't figure out what it was. The Dragon Rebel clan weren't idiot. They wouldn't die for nothing. So what was the problem? Since they couldn't figure it out, they didn't dare to act rashly. They had to keep pushing forward with their sergeants. The three forces had over 5 million soldiers, while the Dragon Rebel clan only had over 1 million. The leaders of the three forces were curious to see if the Dragon Rebel clan could still keep their trump cards hidden after the army of more than 1 million was exhausted. As long as he revealed his trump card, it would be easy to deal with him. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Before figuring out the Dragon Rebel clan's backer, the experts of the three forces wouldn't dare to act recklessly. On the 4th day, The three factions mobilized 500,000 soldiers and sent out a few hundred Fifth Tribulation experts to begin a large-scale frontal attack. This time, the three factions gave the order to attack Mount Uding. The bloody battle started, and it was even fiercer this time. The Dragon Rebel clan still hadn't sent out any Lord-level experts, but they did send out many experts who had undergone the Fifth Tribulation. It was the first time that the Dragon Rebel clan had sent out experts who had undergone the Fifth Tribulation. Even so, the Dragon Rebel clan was losing ground again and again. The attacks were too strong for them to hold on. Unless they mobilized a Lord-class expert, they wouldn't be able to suppress it. Yuting Mountain had deployed some divine glyphs and inhibitions. With the help of these divine glyphs and inhibitions, the Dragon Rebel clan's combat prowess soared. After the armies of the three forces broke into Yuting Mountain, they suffered heavy casualties. The three forces couldn't sit still anymore. They started to mobilize their Lord-level experts tentatively. Otherwise, ordinary soldiers wouldn't be able to hold on. As soon as the Lord-level experts took action, the inhibitions became useless. Many divine glyphs and inhibitions were broken easily. The armies of the three forces continued to break into Yuting Mountain with irresistible force. The ordinary soldiers of the Dragon Rebel clan started to retreat. Countless soldiers entered the peerless treasure land refined by the Saint Emperor through the entrance. There had been flames at the entrance. Now that the Dragon Rebel clan had blown it up, it was easier for them to go in and out. The armies flew in batch by batch. The experts of the Dragon Rebel clan were guarding outside. The armies of the three forces didn't dare to chase after them. They had to report the situation to their superiors. "What's going on?" The patriarchs and experts of the three forces gathered together, not understanding what was going on. Why did the Dragon Rebel clan mobilize their armies into the treasure land? Were they going to send all of them in? If the three forces sealed the entrance, the Dragon Rebel clan would never be able to get out, wouldn't they? Everyone was confused. The leaders of the three forces had to mobilize their armies to surround the entrance so that the Dragon Rebel clan couldn't escape. If they wanted to escape, they would have to break through the layers of encirclement. By then, the situation would be favorable to the three forces. What is the Dragon Rebel clan doing? Not only the three forces, but also countless scouts. The other forces of the Flying Fire Continent had sent scouts as well. None of them understood what was going on. The Dragon Rebel clan felt they were digging their own graves. Were they going to trap themselves in the peerless treasure land? Half a day later, all the soldiers of the Dragon Rebel clan had entered. Then the experts of the Dragon Rebel clan started to enter as well. In the end, under the gaze of the experts of the three forces, all the experts of the Dragon Rebel clan entered the peerless treasure land. It was empty outside. Not a single soul could be seen. What's going on? The experts of the three great powers couldn't understand what was going on. All of them rose into the air and flew towards the entrance. No matter how they were going to deal with it, the experts of the three forces were going to seal the entrance first. In this way, they would at least have the initiative. By then, they would be able to attack or defend, advance or retreat. They could wipe out the Dragon Rebel clan bit by bit easily. Buzzing, right at that moment, a sudden change took place. The entrance suddenly glowed. Then a dreadful suction force came from the entrance. It was so powerful that even the Lord Realm experts couldn't react in time. They were sucked in right away. The three forces had almost 100 Lord Realm experts in total. Right now, 60 of them were near the entrance. More than half of them had been sucked in. Hundreds of experts of the Five Disasters realm couldn't stand it, either. They were sucked in right away. What's going on? It's a trap. They built a super powerful divine glyph right at the entrance. Many people were shocked. Those nearby retreated right away. The two great emperors of the Lin family and the Fan family showed up like ghosts. The rest of the warriors went to surround the two great emperors. The sudden change caught many people off guard. They didn't know what to do. "We've been tricked." The great emperor of the Lin family thought for a while and said, "The Dragon Rebel clan has made arrangements. There must be secret reinforcements in the Supreme Treasure Land. Not only powerful reinforcements but also powerful divine glyph right. They didn't dig their own graves. They dug one for us and forced us to jump in. 40 to 50 Lord Realm experts and hundreds of experts of the 5 Disasters realm had been sucked in. Unless they didn't care about the lives of those hundreds of people, they would have to follow them in, wave after wave. The Dragon Rebel clan had been prepared. They had to jump in even though they knew it was a trap. Needless to say, they were at a disadvantage in this battle. The 3 forces might lose the battle. What are you afraid of? We have Great Emperor Lin Yun and Immortal Emperor Fan on our side. The Dragon Rebel clan has no great emperors. We will win this battle no matter what. Charge in and destroy the Dragon Rebel clan. Don't wait anymore. All of us will die if we wait any longer." Many people nearby started to yell. With every passing second, the people inside would be in more danger. If they waited for a few hours, all of them would die. Let's go! Chapter 25-29. As soon as the 2 great emperors entered, most of the other experts followed them. Only a small number of experts stayed outside to guard, and the soldiers kept coming in. The situation was under the control of the Dragon Rebel tribe. They had to follow the Dragon Rebel tribe's rhythm. They had to fight to the death with them. Otherwise, the 3 forces couldn't afford the loss of dozens of lords who were sucked in and killed. Maybe the 3 forces would be reduced to second-rate forces after this war and go from prosperity to decline. Millions of soldiers kept going in. In fact, there were scouts from different forces hiding in the army. The situation here was transmitted to the Flying Fire continent by the scouts through special channels. One day later, more than half of the millions of soldiers had gone in, and the news was spread. The entire Flying Fire continent was in an uproar. Some experts even opened the space gates and came nearby. No one knew what the Dragon Rebel tribe had set up in the Treasure Land, and no one knew how the war would end. But everyone had a bad feeling. Maybe the 3 forces would be severely injured after this war. Of course, the Dragon Rebel tribe might be severely injured and wiped out in the end. Whether the Dragon Rebel tribe or the 3 forces were defeated, it would be a very important thing for the Flying Fire continent. Many forces were preparing in secret. They wanted to see if they could loot the treasures, powerful divine skills, and strange treasures that the Dragon Rebel tribe or the 3 forces had accumulated for many years. 3 days. The experts and armies of the 3 major forces had been in the Supreme Treasure Land for 3 days, but there was no news from them. More and more experts from the major forces gathered in the vicinity of Yuting Mountain. Even the patriarchs of some major forces had come over personally. However, none of them dared to enter the Treasure Land. They could only wait for the war to end and one side to lose before deciding what to do next. No one dared to act rashly before figuring out the situation. After another 2 days, the entrance suddenly shone brightly. Then a figure flew out. The experts guarding outside glanced over, and their expressions changed dramatically. Their eyes were full of disbelief. It was a man in a white robe. He looked like a middle-aged man, but his face was pale and his eyes were full of shock. But that was not the point. The point was that one of his arms had been chopped off from the shoulder. Immortal Emperor Fan. An expert exclaimed with trembling lips. This white-robed middle-aged man was the Grand Emperor of the Fan clan, Immortal Emperor Fan. A great emperor's arm had been chopped off, and from the looks of it, he had escaped in terror. How could everyone not be shocked? There was no saint emperor in this world, and the great emperor was the strongest. Although great emperors were divided into strong and weak ones, and Sunlight Emperor was able to kill Purple Emperor in the past, great emperors were still great emperors. Lord-level experts could not compare to them at all, not even quasi-emperors. The Dragon Rebel tribe had many emperors to be, such as the Dragon Rebel flying team. After the quasi-emperors of the Dragon Rebel clan had awakened the inverse dragon blood seal, their battle prowess was comparable to that of a great emperor. A slight difference was a slight difference. This was something that could not be made up for with numbers. No matter how many quasi-emperors there were, they would not be able to kill a great emperor. This was common knowledge in the third heaven. Furthermore, the great emperor of the Fan family hadn't just broken through to the Dharch realm. Instead, he had broken through to the Dharch realm more than 200,000 years ago. His strength was considered above average among the Dharch realm experts in the Flying Fire continent. What happened? Why did Immortal Emperor Fan escape first? But what about the Lin clan's great emperor? What about the other experts from the three great powers? No one could figure it out. All they could do was look at Immortal Emperor Fan and wait for his answer. Immortal Emperor Fan looked bitter. He waved his other intact arm and sighed. Let's all retreat to our clans. This time, our three great powers have lost completely. Great Emperor Lin Yun has died in battle. Most of the people inside are also dead. We don't know how many can escape. Retreat immediately. Otherwise, when the Dragon Rebel clan catches up with us, none of us will be able to escape. Boom! Like a bolt from the blue, everyone outside was shaken to the point that their bodies trembled. If it wasn't Immortal Emperor Fan who said this, no one would believe it. Great Emperor Lin Yun was dead? A Dharch realm expert was dead? How could this be possible? Who could kill him? A formidable martial artist from the Lin clan was trembling all over. Obviously, he did not believe it. He shouted, "Immortal Fan, are you lying to us? How could Emperor Yun be dead? Who could kill him? Just those good-for-nothings from the Dragon Rebel clan? This is impossible. I don't believe it. Good-for-nothings from the Dragon Rebel clan? Ha 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 ha." Immortal Emperor Fan seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. His face was full of self-mockery. He said coldly, "The Dragon Rebel clan has broken through to the Dharch realm. The intelligence departments of the three great powers are all good-for-nothings. They couldn't even find this out. The Dharch realm experts of the Dragon Rebel clan, you think about it yourselves. Besides, there are not only the Dragon Rebel clan but also the Heavenly Blood Eagle clan. Everyone from the Fan clan, listen to my order. Retreat immediately." Swish. After Immortal Emperor Fan finished speaking, he turned into a beam of flowing light and flew away, leaving behind a group of dumbfounded people. The people from the Fan clan reacted quickly and left in a hurry. The people from the Lin clan and the Water Cloud Palace were all dumbfounded. The Dragon Rebel clan had broken through to the Dharch realm? The Dragon Rebel clan was one of the 10 ancient divine clans. After awakening the inverse dragon blood seal, their combat strength would soar. After the Dragon Rebel clan broke through to the Dharch realm and awakened the inverse dragon blood seal, their combat strength would also soar. They would be able to defeat ordinary Dharch realm experts easily. There was also the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan, which was also one of the 10 great ancient clans. Although they had been exterminated in the past, after so many years of recuperation, they had accumulated a lot of experts. It was likely that all the experts of the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan had come. What was the Heavenly Blood Eagle clan doing here? Of course, they weren't here to help the Dragon Rebel clan. They were here to take over territory. After wiping out the three forces, they would have their own territory. Then, they would be able to gather all the pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan in the level 3 heaven. If the Dragon Rebel clan had an Dharch realm expert, it would become the overlord of the Flying Fire continent. With the protection of the Dragon Rebel clan, the Heavenly Blood Eagle clan could easily occupy this territory and grow stronger quickly. In a few hundred or a few thousand years, the powerful Heavenly Blood Eagle clan would rise above level 3 again. Retreat, People from the Watercloud Palace and the Lin family shouted, clenching their teeth. If they didn't retreat now, none of them would be able to escape when the Dragon Rebel clan and the Heavenly Blood Eagle clan came. Defeat was inevitable. Nobody could reverse the situation. Of the three great powers, except for the Fan family, who could manage to protect themselves, the other two were destined to lose. If they didn't go back and make arrangements for their retreat, the other two forces would be wiped out in the end. Whoosh, 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 people kept rushing out from the entrance. They didn't stop after they came out. They turned into beams of light and flew away. Everyone was shocked. All the forces had sent scouts to Yu Ting Mountain. They all heard Immortal Emperor Fan's words. The news was spread out as fast as they could. Powerful warriors of many forces gathered nearby. When they heard the news, they were all shocked, their faces full of terror. Chapter 25-30. Half a month later, the news had spread throughout the entire Soaring Fire continent. It had also begun to spread throughout the entire third layer of the Soaring Fire continent. In a few months, the news would spread throughout the entire third layer of the Soaring Fire continent. It was a very common thing for forces to fight each other in the third heavenly layer. However, the death of an Emperor stage powerhouse had a huge impact, and it was bound to cause a sensation in the entire third heaven. After this battle, the Dragon Rebel clan would become a top force on the Flying Fire continent, or even in the whole Level 3 heaven. The name of the Flying Dragon Rebels would also become particularly dazzling, and they would become the top existence in the third heaven. The Dragon Rebel clan was one of the top 10 holy clans in the ancient times. This clan had nature-defying talents. The heavens were fair, and their cultivation was exceptionally difficult. Other than the founding ancestor, there hadn't been a second Emperor-level expert in the past few hundred years. Today, the Dragon Rebel tribe had given birth to a super genius who had broken through to the Emperor level. It also represented the Dragon Rebel tribe's strong rise. As long as Dragon Rebel Xiang didn't die, the Dragon Rebel tribe would be glorious and powerful for hundreds of thousands of years. Many factions on the Flying Fire continent had originally planned to join the victors and loot the losers after the war ended. None of the forces dared to make a move. The three forces were now in the Dragon Rebel clan's pocket. Who would dare to fight with the Dragon Rebel clan for food? Many forces on the Flying Fire continent were on tenterhook. Maybe in the future, all forces would have to struggle to survive under the tyranny of the Dragon Rebel clan. Since the Dragon Rebel Flying clan could fight two Emperor-level experts alone, killing one and injuring the other, no force on the Flying Fire continent could compete with the Dragon Rebel clan. All the mysteries had been solved. Previously, many people had thought the Dragon Rebel clan was crazy and the Dragon Rebel clan was stupid. Not until then did they understand that the Dragon Rebel clan was luring the strong men of the three forces into the treasure land. Then they would inflict heavy losses on the three forces in one battle and kill them all. The Watercloud Palace and the Lin family were very smart. The remaining experts had retreated right away. After returning to their clans, they did not stay there. Instead, they arranged for some of them to enter the various pocket dimensions. The remaining people split into two groups. One group fled towards the Cold Wave Sea in the north, while the other group fled towards the Silver Flame Sea in the south. If they didn't run, they would die. They could only wait for their clan to be exterminated. Defeat was defeat. One had to face reality. If they didn't face it, then they would be completely annihilated. How many people could escape now? As long as they survived, there would be a day when they could rise again. It was just like the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan back then. Most of their clansmen had been killed, and some of them had escaped. After recuperating for so many years, they had now come back to kill. As long as they could escape this time, as long as they could survive this time, then they still had hope of rising up. The matter of the Cloudy Heaven Blood Eagle clan made many forces feel uneasy. Back then, many clans and forces had participated in the encirclement of the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan. If they allowed the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan to rise again, they would definitely seek revenge. However, the Dragon Rebel clan was at its peak right now. Who would have the nerve to pick on the Dragon Rebel clan? If the Dragon Rebels dared to kill one overlord level, they would dare to kill another. No one dared to take the risk. The turbid Heaven Blood Eagle clan had officially made their appearance. More than 10 12-winged turbid Heaven Blood Eagles had arrived. There were also hundreds of 10-winged experts. 12-winged experts represented Lord-level experts, and not just ordinary Lord-level experts. The 10 ancient holy clans all had their own talents, and their combat strengths could suppress those of the same level. The territories of the Lin family and the Watercloud Palace were divided by the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan and the Dragon Rebel clan. The Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan sent out a summons, asking all the clansmen of the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan in the Third Heaven to gather here. The two clans didn't attack the Fan family's territory right away. One reason was that the Overlord-level experts of the Fan family hadn't died yet, and the other was that the Watercloud Palace and the Lin family needed time to stabilize their territories. The Dragon Rebel clan has broken through to the Overlord level. Awesome! Tian Yazi sighed with emotion when he got the news. Quasi-Emperor and Great Emperor both had the word Emperor in their names, but they were worlds apart. Tian Yazi's current combat strength was comparable to a Quasi-Emperor's, but to break through to the Overlord level, he felt it was harder than reaching the sky. Most importantly, he didn't have the slightest confidence. He felt he was too far away from the Overlord level, and he might never have the chance to break through in this lifetime. What was more, even if he did, there was still a huge gap between him and the Dragon Rebel clan. After the Dragon Rebel clan awakened the Reverse Dragon Blood Seal, he could crush average Overlord-level warriors. Tian Yazi didn't tell Lu Li about this even though the Watercloud Palace and the Lin family were finished. The Fan family and the Dragon Rebel clan didn't have time to deal with Lu Li. In other words, Lu Li was safe. As long as he didn't show himself in public, nobody would target him. That being said, Tian Yazi believed Lu Li's realm was too low. Since Lu Li was going to the Golden Water region to cultivate, then Tian Yazi should let him cultivate for a few years. At the very least, he could survive the Fourth Heaven Tribulation when he came out. Lu Li was cultivating in peace. He was absolutely safe here. The outside world was sealed off. Tian Yazi would send someone to inform Lu Li at once if there was any important information. Lu Li didn't care about anything else. He focused on cultivating divine energy, improving his soul, refining his body, and studying the trace of the great Tao to try to dissolve that divine chain of order. When he was in closed-door cultivation, he didn't have much sense of time. If nobody woke him up, he wouldn't wake up for 2 or 3 years. Outside, the Dragon Rebel clan and the pure Heaven Blood Eagles had been digesting the territories for a while. They were mobilizing powerful warriors to hunt down the remnants of the Lin family and the Watercloud Palace. If the roots were not eradicated, they would grow again. Only by killing as many powerful warriors of the two races as possible could they avoid future troubles. Many families affiliated to the two forces were dealt with as well. Of course, some major families ran away. More families and forces chose to surrender. Those who didn't would face death. The Dragon Rebel clan and the Pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan treated those who surrendered well. The Pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan didn't have any foundation here. Now that some major forces and families had chosen to surrender, the Pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan would gladly accept them. The Fan family had been secretly relocating as well. They knew they couldn't go on like this. Sooner or later, they would be wiped out by the Dragon Rebel clan and the Pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan. The Dragon Rebel clan could come at any time. By then, what could Immortal Emperor Fan do? The Fan family had an emperor. They could conquer a territory wherever they went. It was just a matter of whether the other Emperor-level warriors and superfamilies would be affected. The Fan family had chosen the Silver Flame Sea area as their target. They had sent someone to the Silver Flame Sea area to negotiate with the Wu family, indicating that they wanted to get close to the Wu family. As long as Sunlight Emperor didn't object, the Fan family could easily gain a foothold in the Silver Flame Sea area. By then, the Dragon Rebel clan would have to think twice before attacking them. After all, they had a very powerful Sunlight Emperor. All the disciples of the Dragon Rebel clan who had entered the secret realm came out. All the clansmen were in high spirits. The young people of the Dragon Rebel clan gathered together and got drunk for 3 days. All the young clansmen of the Dragon Rebel clan felt their backs were much straighter. Without a doubt, in the future, the outstanding young people of their clan would become the top young masters and young mistresses on the Flying Fire continent. They would surpass the young masters and young mistresses of other forces. Because a great emperor had appeared in the Dragon Rebel clan, they would become the supreme overlord of the Flying Fire continent. Chapter 25-31. 2 years passed in the blink of an eye. The Dragon Rebel clan and the Murky Heaven Snow Eagle clan had taken over all the territories of the Watercloud Palace and the Lins. The Fan family ran away too. The Dragon Rebel clan and the Heavenly Snow Eagle clan kept marching into the Fan family's territory and took it over easily. The Fan clan and the Wu clan had reached an agreement. They all moved to the Silver Flame Sea area. Sunlight Emperor acquiesced and gave up a piece of land. The Fan clan would take over several big clans there. 2 years were enough for the entire Fan family to move. However, they couldn't move the treasured lands. The Dragon Rebel clan and the pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan had swallowed them up. The Dragon Rebel clan got the lion's share. The entire Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan of the Third Heaven also returned one after another. The strength of the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan shocked everyone. Originally, they had thought that this race did not have many people left. During this year, many mixed Heaven Blood Hawks had returned. They all had 8 or 10 wings, and there were 7 or 8 with 12 wings. The alliance of the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan and the Dragon Rebel clan made all the big forces on the Flying Fire continent feel pressured. Several forces had planned to unite to suppress the Dragon Rebel clan and the pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan. However, after the Flying Dragon Rebel sent someone to deliver a message, those forces dared not act recklessly. The Dragon Rebel clan has stood on this land for so many years. We have deep feelings for this land. We don't want this land to be plunged into the endless flames of war. We won't start a war, and we're not afraid of war. If you insist on fighting, the Dragon Rebel tribe won't hesitate to fight. Once the war starts, we won't stop until we die. What the Dragon Rebel clan said was very resolute. It explained the Dragon Rebel clan's attitude. The last sentence, in particular, scared all the big families. How terrifying would a Dragon Rebel clan member who had broken through to the Emperor realm be? The death and injury of immortal Emperor Lin Yun and immortal Emperor Fan were proof. There were a few Thearchs in the Flying Fire continent, but none of them dared to claim that they could fight 2 Thearchs alone or kill 1 Thearch. Even if 3 or 4 emperors from the Flying Fire continent joined forces, could they really kill the Dragon Rebels? If he couldn't kill the members of the Dragon Rebel Flying Squad, the Dragon Rebel Flying Squad was bound to take revenge. At that time, they would really fight to the death. There was one more thing. Both the Dragon Rebel clan and the pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan were ancient races. It was difficult for them to reproduce, so they didn't have many clansmen. Therefore, the great factions of the Soaring Fire continent weren't worried about the 2 races joining forces to unify the Soaring Fire continent. They had too few people, and even if they conquered the Soaring Fire continent, they didn't have enough people to manage it. In other words, the Soaring Fire continent was too big for the 2 races to swallow. Now that the 2 races had swallowed 3 large territories, it was already enough. Any larger territories would probably be difficult for them to manage. As such, the major powers of the Flying Fire continent weren't worried that the two races would continue to expand. Even if they wanted to expand, they would have to wait hundreds or even thousands of years. So, the various powers had time to think about how to deal with this situation. They did not dare to act rashly now. It was undeniable that the Dragon Rebel tribe would become the absolute overlord of the Flying Fire continent. No force would dare to provoke the Dragon Rebel tribe. They would have to follow the Dragon Rebel tribe's lead. This had a great impact on the entire Level 3 heaven. The death of an Emperor-level strongman would probably last for several years. The Dragon Rebel clan's strong rise would become the main topic of discussion in the Level 3 heaven during this period. The surviving members of the Lins and the Water Cloud Palace had been hunted down by the Dragon Rebel clan and the Murky Heaven Snow Eagle clan, but many of them had escaped to the Frigid Sea area and the Silver Flame Sea area. No matter how strong the two races were, they wouldn't send powerful warriors to the two seas for the time being. The Fan family had gained a firm foothold in the Silver Flame Sea area, which was a source of trouble for the Dragon Rebel clan and the Murky Heaven Blood Eagle clan. But the two races were not afraid. With such a large territory, the two races would grow stronger in the future, especially the Murky Heaven Blood Eagle clan. All the Murky Heaven Blood Eagles in the Level 3 heaven would come back. With the help of a large amount of resources, the rise of the Murky Heaven Blood Eagle clan was set in stone. Luli had been forgotten by the world. Naturally, the three forces would not continue to track him down. The Dragon Rebel clan had no time to worry about him, either. Luli had been missing for a long time. Not even the Dragon Rebel pool, the Dragon Rebel Yun, and the others cared about him. Faced with such a powerful Dragon Rebel race, Luli was a strange nonentity at best. Luli had been cultivating in the Golden Water region for more than 2 years. His physical body had been strengthened, and so had his divine energy and soul. He had consumed almost half of the elixirs in his interspatial ring. I think I can go through the fourth heaven tribulation now. Luli opened his eyes today. His physical body, soul, divine energy, and fundamental principle had all been achieved. Luli's state of mind was much more mature than before. After meeting Lu Ling, the biggest knot in his heart had been untied. At least, it was not as dangerous as when he went through the heaven tribulation. I will cultivate for another half a year. When I pass the heaven tribulation, I will set off for the second heaven. Luli made up his mind after some thoughts. It had been a long time. The outside world shouldn't be tracking him anymore. He had been in the Level 3 heaven for a long time. He had accomplished the task of killing the Asmodean Lord and met Lu Ling. It was time to go back to the second heaven. Let's see if I can make a breakthrough in the trace of the Great Tao in the half a year. Luli was a bit disappointed. After such a long time, he had made some progress in the trace of the Great Tao, but not in the divine chains of order. He knew that he could not make it in a short period of time. He had to calm down and study patiently. Haste did not lead to success. Half a year passed by quickly. Luli had made no progress in the divine chains of order. He had been refining his body for such a long time. It seemed that he was growing, but compared to his physical strength, this improvement was nothing. The stronger the physical body, the harder it would be to improve quickly unless he could find some miraculous elixirs. But such elixirs were hard to come by. Even if one had a large number of divine stones, one could not buy such elixirs. Of course, there was another way. For example, cultivating in the flames of destruction would speed up his progress. It was a pity that Lu Li's physical body would be burnt to a crisp in the flames of destruction. Lu Li was not in a hurry to improve his physical body. It was all up to fate. If there was such a chance, he would not give it up. If not, then there was no need to force it. Lu Li had pinned his hopes on the divine chains of order. If he could consume the divine chains of order, his abilities would soar. This was what the nameless demon emperor said. Words of a powerful warrior of the great emperor realm could be trusted. Let's go. Luli flew toward the small island. When he landed, he stepped into the teleportation formation and teleported to the island he came from. There was a patriarch here. Hearing that Luli wanted to go out, the patriarch didn't say anything. He teleported Luli out. That patriarch brought Luli back to the castle where Tian Yangzi lived. Tian Yangzi was not in closed-door cultivation. He was reading the history of ancient times. When Luli came out, Tian Yangzi nodded and said, "Good. You have been in there for almost 3 years. You are steadier now and your physical body has improved. I think you can go through the 4th heavenly tribulation at any time." "Brother," Luli asked, "how is it going out there?" "Ha ha," Tian Yangzi said with a smile, "your sister's race is playing a big game. The Dragon Rebel race is at the top of their game. The 3 forces have been eliminated, eh?" Luli didn't understand what was going on outside. Tian Yangzi explained it to him patiently. Luli was shocked. He didn't know that the Dragon Rebel race had reached the Great Emperor realm. He didn't know that the Great Emperor of the Lin family was killed. The 3 forces had left the Flying Fire continent. Chapter 25-32. Tian Yangzi didn't stop Luli from going back. The fact that Luli came out after only 2 years of cultivation indicated that he was not calm enough. Staying here would affect Luli's state of mind and he wouldn't make much progress in cultivation. Also, Tian Yangzi believed that even if Luli went back to the 2nd heaven, he would go to the 3rd heaven in a couple of decades. Luli had seen the colorful world of the 3rd heaven. The 2nd heaven was like a poor village. The Xian Qi in heaven and earth and resources at the 2nd heaven could not compare with those at the 3rd heaven. Tian Yangzi ordered someone to prepare for the heaven's tribulation. He told Luli to rest for a couple of days to stabilize his state of mind. When the time came, Tian Yangzi would give Luli a hand and make it easier for him to go through the heaven's tribulation. 10 days later, Luli began the 4th heaven's tribulation. Tian Yangzi told the Hua family to seal off the news. Nobody was allowed to get close to the tribulation platform. In this way, even if someone found out someone was going through the heaven's tribulation, they wouldn't be able to tell that it was Luli. The 4th heaven's tribulation was much fiercer than the previous ones. Luckily, Luli had met all the requirements, especially his physical body and soul. The first few heaven's tribulations didn't pose much pressure to Luli, especially the thunderbolts. Luli's physical body could withstand them easily. For him, it was more like a way to refine his body. Now, the demons in Luli's mind were no longer Lu Ling, but his family and friends. Many illusions appeared in his mind. For example, the Phoenix Empress had sent people to the 2nd heaven and started a massacre in the 2nd heaven, killing all his clansmen, lovers, and relatives. Luli had a fatal weakness, which was that he had not cultivated long enough. He had many demons in his mind. That was why he had never dared to go through the heaven's tribulation. At this moment, he understood why the Dragon Rebel race had sealed Lu Ling's soul. If Lu Ling's memory was not sealed, then she would still have strong inner demons. Not to mention the heaven's tribulation, her daily cultivation would be affected as well. If Lu Ling's memory was not sealed, she would not be able to cultivate so fast. She could reach the 5th heaven's tribulation because of the top-level resources of the Dragon Rebel race. For another, she was talented. For another, her memory must have been sealed. At the critical moment, it was Tian Yangzi who made great efforts. He used some powerful skill to pull Luli back from the illusion and to weaken his inner demons so that Luli could survive the trial. The tribulation of primordial chaos was better. Even though Luli's flesh was torn, he managed to survive. Although he was severely injured in the end, he managed to survive and overcome the heavenly tribulation. For tribulations, He was the most powerful warrior in the second heaven. Lu Li's strength and realm had improved by leaps and bounds after he came to the third heaven. Many people would find it hard to believe that he could go back to the second heaven. Lu Li was brought back by Tian Yazi. He passed out at once. The injury was serious. Even his soul was hurt. He would have to rest for at least several months. Lu Li slept for 5 days. When he woke up, he began to cultivate and heal his wound. He could clearly feel that his overall strength had improved greatly after going through the heavenly tribulation. His physical body, divine power, soul, and other aspects had all been transformed. After 2 heavenly tribulations, Lu Li had become a warrior of the 4th tribulation from a 2nd tribulation warrior. He had been well prepared. Of course, this had a lot to do with Tian Yazi's help. Without him, Lu Li might not have survived the 3rd heavenly tribulation. Sister, you have progressed so fast. Maybe the flying dragon rebel has helped you as well? Tian Yazi said that he could only help Lu Li to the 4th tribulation. He would not be able to help Lu Li for the 5th one. If he could find a powerful warrior of the great emperor realm to help him, then it was not impossible for him to survive the 5th heavenly tribulation. The flying dragon rebel was a warrior of the great emperor realm. It was said that Lu Ling had something to do with Tian Yazi. The flying dragon rebel must have contributed to Lu Ling's improvement. It was so easy for a powerful warrior of the great emperor realm to guide a junior. Lu Li had been healing for more than 2 months. His wounds were healed and his realm was stabilized. He decided to leave. He walked out of the room and said goodbye to Tian Yazi. Tian Yazi didn't ask him to stay. He just asked, "How do you plan to go back?" "How?" Lu Li was surprised. Then he explained, "I will take the battleship of the Palace of Smoke to the Fire City, and then go across the Silver Flame Sea to the Wind Continent, and then to the Ziyang Continent." "That is too slow." Tian Yazi shook his head and said, "Also, there are too many uncertainties on the way. You will be targeted and hunted down by your enemies." "Then what should I do?" Lu Li was confused. Was there any other way for him to go? "Have you heard of the Space City?" Tian Yazi said. Seeing that Lu Li was confused, he explained, "The Space City is a superforce. You must have heard of the Reincarnation Emperor." Yes. Of course, Lu Li had heard of this. Patriarch Gui once said that there were 3 acknowledged most powerful emperors in the world: the Reincarnation Emperor, Emperor of Freedom, and Emperor Candle Heaven. The Reincarnation Emperor ranked first. Tian Yazi explained, "The Master of the Space City is the Reincarnation Emperor. He is acknowledged to be one of the top 3 emperors of the third heaven. He has mastered laws of space and time." The Space City is an independent force in the third heaven. They don't fight with other forces, but they are not afraid of provocation. They have a very powerful ability. They can send you anywhere you want within a short period of time. But the price is very high. That is good. Lu Li was delighted. The Space City was similar to the Space-Time Office in the Divinity. The price didn't matter. He had killed many demons before, and he had many treasures, divine stones and materials. If they were all auctioned, he could get several trillion divine stones. Lu Li asked at once, "Brother, how many divine stones do I have to pay if I can get to the Ziyang continent in one go?" As long as he could get to the Ziyang continent, then everything else would be easy. It wouldn't take him much time to go back to the second heaven from the Ziyang continent. "I don't know. At least several trillion divine stones," Tian Yazi said after some thoughts. Then he looked at Lu Li and asked, "Do you have enough divine stones? Don't you need me to give you some?" "I do have several trillion divine stones." Lu Li grinned. "When I was outside the Blazing Island, I killed a patriarch of the Wu family with thunderbolts and many other demons. I got many treasures and materials. I think I can get 4 to 5 trillion divine stones if I trade them." Tian Yazi was surprised. He didn't know that Lu Li had so many treasures. Tian Yazi was taken aback. He thought about it and said, "Well, don't sell them. I will get someone to appraise them and I will buy them for 30% above the market price. The whole family needs to buy some of the materials as well." 30%. Luli touched his nose in embarrassment. Tian Yazi was giving him a lot of divine stones. Luli didn't argue. After all, the whole family was a big family. An extra trillion divine stones was nothing to the whole family. Tian Yazi waved his hand and said, "Okay, that's it. When it is done, I will have someone open a portal and send you to the Frigid Sea. The space city is in the center of the Frigid Sea. It will be easy to find. Go back and have a look. You can go back to the third heaven. I can live for a few more years. The great Buddha mountain welcomes you at any time." Chapter 25-33. Luli took out all the miscellaneous treasures and materials he had and piled them up. Tian Yazi sent someone to sort them out and set the price. Because of Tian Yazi, Luli was not worried that he would be cheated. Some inconspicuous treasures from the interspatial rings of the Asmodeans were offered a high price. Some special materials were valuable as well. Luli did not take out the body refinement materials. He planned to consume them later. In the end, the Hua family offered 7 trillion for all the treasures and materials. The price was much higher. The Hua family was being very nice to Tian Yazi. The Hua family gave Luli a jade talisman after the price was offered. This kind of jade talisman belonged to a super force in the third heaven, the Flourishing Hall. Many cities in the third heaven had branches of the Flourishing Hall. With this jade talisman, one could take out the divine stones easily. Luli had never heard of the Flourishing Hall, but he trusted the Hua family and Tian Yazi. He took over the jade talisman without saying anything and thanked the patriarchs. The Hua family began to build a space gate for Luli. After all, he would be teleported to the edge of the Frigid Sea, which was a long distance. This was an ultra-long distance teleportation, which required a lot of complicated arrangement. Luli stayed at the Hua family. He didn't cultivate anymore. He spent all his time with Tian Yazi, reading, playing chess, chatting, and drinking. Tian Yazi was not only powerful in fighting but also experienced in many ways. Luli benefited a lot from this. Tian Yazi told Luli that he could practice soul attacks, and that he should pay more attention to improving his soul. He also gave Luli some advanced soul-nurturing pellet. Luli didn't say no now. He was just grateful. He saved Tian Yazi's life and Tian Yazi had helped him a lot. It was hard to say who owed whom. Luli remembered this kindness. From now on, the Hua family's business would be his business, and he would spare no effort. 5 days later, the space gate was ready. Tian Yazi took Luli directly to the castle where the space gate was opened. Tian Yazi waved his hand without hesitation and said, "Little Lu, go ahead. Bon voyage." Luli was reluctant. He didn't know how many years he would have to wait before he could go back to the Great Buddha Mountain. Nobody knew what was going to happen. What if he could never come back? Perhaps this meeting would be an eternal farewell. He took a deep look at Tian Yazi, then bowed with cupped hands and said in a low voice, "Big brother, take care. Little Lu is leaving." With that said, Luli made up his mind and left. He dashed into the black gate and disappeared. The space gate slowly closed as well. Peace returned to the castle. Apart from Tian Yazi, there were 3 other patriarchs of the Hua family here. One of the patriarchs couldn't help but ask after the portal disappeared, "Ancestor Ye, you seem to value Luli a lot." They all knew that Tian Yazi brought Luli to the Yuding Mountain. He was willing to offend several major forces just to help Luli get to the treasured land. After that, he gave Luli the position of an honorary elder and even gave Luli a few trillion divine stones. Even if Luli had saved Tian Yazi, he didn't have to pay so much attention to him. "You don't understand." Tian Yazi waved his hand and said with a sigh, I've been looking through ancient historical records and discovered something. Little Lou seems to have a unique physique from ancient times. The three patriarchs were surprised. Apart from the fact that Luli was cultivating the supreme divine body, there was nothing special about him. One patriarch asked, "Ancestor what kind of special physique?" Seventh tribulation. Tian Yazi squinted and added, "You won't understand even if I tell you. Don't ask too many questions. This guy is strange. If nothing goes wrong, he has a good chance to reach the Emperor realm." What? Tian Yazi's words stunned the three patriarchs. The Emperor realm was something far away for them. How could Tian Yazi say that Luli had a chance to do so? How was that possible? When the supreme divine body was completed, the warrior's abilities would be comparable to the Emperor's. Over the past millions of years, how many warriors had completed the supreme divine body? In the recent million years there was only one Emperor Z. Luli didn't have a force behind him. The whole family was one. But Tian Yazi didn't plan to help Luli on the path of the supreme divine body. Otherwise, he would ask the family to allocate a large number of elixirs to strengthen Luli's body. Therefore, the three patriarchs were confused. What was the basis of Tian Yazi's words? Was it just instinct? That's a little ridiculous. Okay, don't overthink it. Tian Yazi shook his head and walked out. At the door, he said, "Little Lou's business must be kept secret. If anyone leaks any information, Tian Yazi's last words were cold. The three patriarchs trembled with fear. Even though they had many questions, nobody dared to disobey the order of the eccentric Master Ya. Luli didn't know how long he had been flying in the void. Luckily, his soul was strong enough to stand it. He felt it had been at least half a month before he saw a ray of light. He rushed out from the light and appeared in midair. He was wearing the shape-shifting mask, which changed his appearance to that of an old man. His hair was silver and his back was bent. He looked no different from an old man. He used psychic power to check and was surprised. He was above a lake. A group of girls were surrounding him in midair. All of them were aiming at him with weapons in their hands. The girls were not particularly strong. Most of them were at the fourth tribulation, and they were all young. Only a middle-aged girl, who was slightly older, was at the fifth tribulation. "Who are you? How dare you trespass into the forbidden area of the Peach Blossom Palace?" The middle-aged girl said coldly. Luli was only at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation. Clearly, she didn't think highly of him. If Luli were a young master, she might be more polite. However, he was just an old man at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation. Naturally, she would look down on him. Ha ha ha! Luli laughed. He saw that many girls' hair was wet and their robes were not intact. He thought they must have been bathing in the lake. They must be upset that they were alarmed by his opening of the spatial gate. Luli smiled, cupped his fists and said, "I am the divine dragon Taoist. I am sorry that I have trespassed into your place. I will leave now." The middle-aged girl sneered and said, "You think you can come and go as you please? What do you think the Peach Blossom Palace is? Leave behind 500 billion divine stones or your hands, or you will not be able to leave." Luli was speechless. The opening of the spatial gate was a rough area. He had trespassed by accident and he didn't cause them any actual harm. Did the Peach Blossom Palace really think he was somebody? The Peach Blossom Palace was not one of the 27 forces at the Flying Fireland. Clearly, the Peach Blossom Palace was just a middle-level force. How could they be so arrogant? Luli was only at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation. Chapter 25-34. It was true that the Peach Blossom Palace was a middle-sized force, but it was backed by a major force. Many young ladies of the Peach Blossom Palace were married to major forces nearby. Therefore, the disciples of the Peach Blossom Palace had always been arrogant. If Luli were a warrior of the fifth tribulation or a young master, their attitude would be different. Luli was just an old man at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation. How could they like him? Luli's words enraged the others. They rebuked him at once. The middle-aged lady of the fifth tribulation had some bracelets on her arms and ankles. She began to dance around Luli. Her hands and feet were shaking. The bracelets and ankles made a pleasant sound. Ha ha ha! The other young ladies spread out and stood in some strange formation. Many took out bells and red silk, ready to cooperate at any time. That being said, everyone had faith in the middle-aged lady. They believed that Luli would be a piece of cake when she made a move. Clank, clank, ding, clank, clank, the beautiful middle-aged lady danced around Luli in midair. The silver bracelets on her wrists and ankles trembled, emitting a pleasant sound. The sound turned into sound waves that radiated towards Luli like ripples. Luli stood in midair without moving. If a warrior at the initial stage of the fifth tribulation could take him down, then he would be better off dead. He could feel surges of energy surging into his body and into his soul. His dragon's soul glowed and began to consume the energy. Luli sensed it and knew what was going on. The energy was good, but his dragon's soul could stand it. What was more, his soul energy had turned into soul needles, which increased his soul defense. Clank, 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 the bracelets and ankles kept making noises. Luli stood in midair as if nothing had happened, watching the lady dance as if he was enjoying a free dance. The others were stunned. They had been dancing for such a long time and Luli didn't react at all? Was his soul that strong? Or did he have a powerful enchanted soul to protect his soul? Peach blossom formation. The middle-aged woman saw that this was not going to work. She shouted and all the other girls started to move. Some of them had pipa, some had bells, some had flutes, some had fans, and some had red silk. All of them started to dance around Luli. It had to be said that the women of Peach Blossom Palace were very beautiful. Their dance was also very moving. If there was no soul attack, it would be a very beautiful performance. Of course, even though there were countless soul waves attacking him, Luli still felt no pressure. Soul waves surged in and were easily blocked by the dragon's soul. Although these fourth tribulation warriors had the support of the battle formation, their attack power was still too weak. Luli didn't do anything. Instead, he looked around with interest, enjoying the beautiful dance for free. The more they danced, the more shocked they were. Their souls were strong, but nothing happened to Luli. Was he really a warrior of the fourth tribulation? Change formation, plum blossom formation. The middle-aged woman sensed something was wrong. She shouted again. Most of the women put away their instrument. Only 2 of them were playing. The others changed into another formation and danced around Luli. This time, the dance was different. This time, the dance was full of seduction. Every frown and every smile of theirs could steal the soul away. Also, the robes the women were wearing were clearly treasures. At the moment, they were faintly discernible, very seductive. The skill of seduction is very advanced. Luli nodded after a while. The skill of seduction didn't have much effect on him, but it did make him feel aroused. It had been years since he had made love with a woman. Inevitably, he was excited to see this. That being said, this level of seduction was not enough to make him fall for it. He decided to stop after a while. The soft sword in his hand began to shake. Invisible ripples spread out. Luli's first target was the middle-aged woman of the fifth tribulation. The woman was stunned for a moment. Soon, she hugged her head and rolled around. Luli waved his other hand. A huge hand appeared and smashed the woman into the lake. Sister Juan. Sister Juan, what is wrong? Go and report to the patriarchs. Send a distress signal and ask for powerful warriors of our race to come. Ask our master to come and kill this old dog. Go and ask our master to kill this old dog. The group of women shouted. Luli was annoyed. He didn't want to be so harsh, but he couldn't bear it any longer. He didn't even use soul attacks. He dashed over like a dragon and slapped the women away one by one. To him, the fourth tribulation warriors were no different from lambs. Many women launched other kinds of attacks at Luli, but they couldn't inflict any harm on him. The attacks of the fourth tribulation warriors were too weak. Bang bang bang. Luli walked around and smashed more than a dozen women into the lake. Many of them were injured by him. Luli dealt a heavy blow to some of the more arrogant ones and severely injured them. Luli didn't kill anyone. He didn't have any deep hatred against the Peach Blossom Palace, so there was no need to offend them. There must be a super force behind the Peach Blossom Palace. If he angered the super force, he would be in big trouble. After smashing everyone away, Luli flew to the distance like an arrow. He didn't stay any longer. He didn't fly into the void because this was a skill unique to him and the crippled Zen master. Once he used it, his identity would be exposed. Boom! As soon as he flew away, a huge firework bloomed in the sky. Following that, there were noises coming from all directions. This was the forbidden area of the Peach Blossom Palace. It must be at the center of the Peach Blossom Palace. As soon as the distress signal was sent out, many warriors swarmed over. Luli used psychic power to check. He frowned. At least more than 1,000 people flew up and gathered here. There were not many powerful warriors and most of them were at the fourth tribulation. That being said, it would be troublesome if there were too many of them. Luli thought for a while and decided to take out the horn. He got it from the Palace of Seven Sounds. He hadn't used it since Blood Fairy took control of it. The horn could be used to attack in group. It was a good chance for him to try it out. Standing in midair, Luli took out the horn. Following Blood Fairy's instructions, he poured divine energy into the horn and some special runes. As the divine runes were activated, the horn quickly released a powerful aura. Moreover, this aura was extremely ancient and vast. Okay. The bugle horn was triggered, and more than 100 people flew over. Luli opened his mouth and blew at the bugle horn. A deep and murderous sound rang out, and sound waves spread out like ripples on water. Ah ah ah, bang 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 bang. Chapter 25:35. Bang bang bang. Like poison mosquitoes, the warriors nearby fell to the ground one by one. The Peach Blossom Palace was mostly made up of females. They rolled around on the ground. All of them were beautiful. It was quite a sight to see hundreds of beautiful girls rolling around. Who are you? How dare you mess around in the Peach Blossom Palace? Someone shouted. 3 people flew out from a palace in the distance. The one who shouted was a noble lady. She was graceful and beautiful. She was at the latter stage of the fifth tribulation as well. She flew over with 2 people. The 2 of them were also fifth tribulation experts. They were both mid-stage fifth tribulation expert. Luli was worried to see that the latter stage of the fifth tribulation was at the latter stage. This person should be their palace lord, their strongest expert. In that split of a second, Luli wondered if he should fly into the void and run away at once. That would expose him easily. If he didn't, he would have to fight to the death with this master. Clearly, the Peach Blossom Palace specialized in soul attack. If this master's soul attacks were powerful, Luli would be doomed. Let's take a chance. Luli decided to take the risk. He had the horn and he understood the law of divine sound. He wanted to try using the horn to release the law of divine sound. If he could do that, the power would be multiplied. Woo woo woo, he didn't fly away. He stayed where he was and blew the horn. When he did, he began to release the law of divine sound according to the rhythm and wave. He wanted to see if he could release it through the horn. It didn't matter how he released the law of divine sound. As long as he could release the waves and rhythm of the law of divine sound, everything would be fine. Clank, 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 from the distance came some pleasant tinkling of bells. Luli looked over and saw red bracelets on the hands and feet of the beautiful lady with bells hanging on them. Her body began to dance in midair, like a proud white swan dancing in the sky. She wore a white palace dress, graceful and luxurious bearing, charming style, graceful figure, moving dance. There was not a single part of her body that did not exude charm and allure. Luli could not look away after one look. The lady's skill of seduction was so good that Luli's heart skipped a beat. His soul was throbbing involuntarily. He felt his blood was flowing faster. The dragon soul in Luli's soul suddenly glowed. At this moment, Luli came back to his senses. Strange energy was sneaking into his soul. If someone had sneaked up on him, he would have been injured. Woo woo woo! Luli immediately closed his eyes and blew the horn with all his might. The sound of the horn was very powerful, and many people nearby fell to the ground again. Even the two people beside the palace lord couldn't take it any more and covered their ears. This treasure is quite peculiar. The palace master's eyes lit up slightly, and the frequency of his movements became faster and faster. The bracelets, anklets, and bells on his hands and feet rang non-stop. Her eyes glowed as she looked at Luli. Luli entered the dreamland and shut off his senses. He could only sense with the trace of Tao. Even so, the palace master's dancing figure automatically appeared in his mind. It was extremely strange. After a while, Luli realized that he could not release the law of sound. He was getting anxious. He sensed that strange energy was surging in from his soul. Some of the energy was consumed by the dragon soul, but there was still a lot of energy lurking in his soul. That energy was not aggressive at the moment, but Luli knew that once the energy accumulated and exploded, the outcome would be disastrous. Woo woo woo! Luli kept blowing the horn. The palace master of Peach Blossom was still dancing in the air. Nobody dared to get close to them. They were fighting one-on-one. Anyone else would be implicated if they tried to get close. I cannot go on like this. Luli felt the energy in his soul was growing, but he could not use the law of sound with the horn. He made up his mind. If he could not do it in the time for 10 breaths, then he would have to force himself to fly, even if he was seriously injured. Woo woo woo! The horn was still blowing, but this time it was rhythmic. Sometimes it was fast, and sometimes it was slow. Every now and then there would be a pause. It was awkward and harsh. All of a sudden, some warriors in the distance cried out in pain. The two patriarchs of the fifth tribulation trembled in pain. Even the palace master was trembling. Nice! Luli was excited. Just now, by accident, he was in tune with the rhythm of the divine sound and triggered it. But his excitement messed up the rhythm again. The law of sound stopped. How? The palace master was taken aback. Just now, she felt billions of golden needles were stabbing at her soul. If it were not for the fact that the golden needles disappeared in a flash, she would have been hit. She would not have been able to survive a soul attack of that intensity. We must kill him as soon as possible. A glint of coldness rose in the eyes of the palace master of Peach Blossom. If she did not kill him soon, then many things might go wrong. She might even be killed by Luli. Woo woo woo! Right when she was about to ask the other two patriarchs to kill Luli, Luli's horn sounded rhythmically again, containing some strange rhythm. Shockwaves spread out. She felt billions of golden needles were stabbing at her soul. After a while, the palace master of Peach Blossom felt a tearing pain in her soul. Even her powerful enchanted soul could not stand it. Her delicate body continued to tremble. She tried her best to neutralize the soul attack, but in the next second she felt her neck being squeezed by a strong hand. She opened her eyes and saw a pair of cold, emotionless eyes. She was scared. This man was not a warrior of the fourth tribulation. He must be a powerful warrior. Otherwise, how could a warrior of the fourth tribulation have such a strong soul attack? Lord! The palace master of Peach Blossom put on a pitiful expression. She looked at Luli and said, "Okay, you win. I and everyone else of the palace of Peach Blossom will be at your mercy. You can do whatever you want." A graceful and noble lady, a queen who looked high and mighty in the eyes of many, was now looking at you with a pitiful expression, as if she was ready to be picked by you. If it was an ordinary person, they would have already fallen in love. Lu Li's expressions didn't change, and he was still filled with killing intent. The Peach Blossom Palace mistress hurriedly swept her gaze across, and a moment later, dozens of beautiful women flew over. They were all thin and plump, all of them had different styles. They all flew back and knelt in the air. One of them said, "Lord, please be magnanimous and let our palace mistress go. We are willing to be your slaves and serve you for the rest of our lives. Yes, Lord. You are a big shot. Don't mind us little girls. Lord, please come in and take a seat. Let us serve you well. Lord, let go of our master. From now on, we will all respect you. You can do whatever you want," the beautiful ladies said. They looked sad and pitiful. Many of them twisted their bodies and used seduction skills at the right time. They were seducing Luli invisibly. A bunch of sluts. Chapter 25-36. Luli didn't play around with the girls of the Peach Blossom Palace, even though there were some of the best ones here. That being said, Luli was not a stud and those ladies were not decent either. Who knew how many big shots the Peach Blossom Palace had sent out? A pair of jade-like hands pillowed by thousands, 2 red lips tasted by thousands. As far as Luli was concerned, these girls were worse than prostitute. As long as you were more powerful than them, they would crawl at your feet and be at your mercy. There were far too many powers on the Flying Fire continent that were more powerful than the Peach Blossom Palace. Most likely, the experts from the nearby major powers could come to the Peach Blossom Palace to play as they pleased. "I'm not interested in you. I've already said that I'm just passing by. Do you really want to fight? This time, your attitude is good, so I'll spare your lives for now. I won't let you off lightly next time." Luli smashed away the master of the Palace of Peach Blossom and then flew toward the north in a blur. Master of the Palace of Peach Blossom glared at Luli's back with murderous intent, but Luli seemed to have noticed it. He turned around and saw Master of Peach Blossom off with a flattering smile. After Luli left, the Master of the Peach Blossom Palace pulled a long face. She shouted, "Inform the Luo Fu Palace, the Heaven's Heart Palace and the Dragon Evil Hall. Ask them to help us hunt down this man." "Wait, I'll go to the Louvre Palace myself." The Peach Palace's palace master's pink eyes were filled with killing intent. She said coldly, "This is a great humiliation. This time, I must make him pay the price. He dared to provoke the Peach Palace. He must be tired of living." The Peach Blossom Palace had a lot of connections. Of course, these connections were formed through marriage or sleeping with women. The women of the Peach Blossom Palace were all proficient in the art of seduction, and they were the best partners in bed. They were very famous in the northern part of the Flying Fire continent. Luli, on the other hand, did not care. After flying for tens of thousands of miles, he changed his looks into a young master and entered a nearby city. Through the map, he determined that this place was not too far away from the cold tide sea. At most, it would take him half a day to arrive. Compared to the Silver Flame Sea region, the Frigid Wave Sea region wasn't as chaotic. Tian Yazi had explained a little about the situation there. The biggest force in the Frigid Wave Sea region was Space City, and there were 3 other major forces that divided up the entire Frigid Wave Sea region. The 4 major forces dominated the entire Cold Tide Sea, and there were still some small forces that attached themselves to the 4 major forces. Due to the independence of the Space City and its supreme prestige, the Cold Wave Sea region was basically not chaotic. Luli had gathered some information in the small town. He was more confident now. After teleporting more than a dozen times, he changed his appearance again and continued teleporting. After teleporting another dozen times, he changed his appearance again. The shape-shifting mask was a very high-level mask. Apart from overlords or powerful lords, most people wouldn't be able to see through it. As such, Luli was very confident in his ability to teleport. Half a day later, Luli noticed something was off. There were more scouts in the cities he teleported to. Clearly, they were looking for someone. Luli took a closer look and found that these people were all holding on to a portrait of him when he first disguised himself as the little old man. Looks like the influence of the Peach Blossom Palace isn't bad. Luli nodded. He was not worried. Those average warriors could not find him. They were about to enter the Frigid Wave Sea. Once they entered the Frigid Wave Sea, the Flying Fire Continent's forces wouldn't dare to cause trouble there. After another 4 hours of teleportation, Luli appeared in a huge city. To the north of the city was the boundless ocean. This city was called the Northern Chill City. After leaving this city, one would be able to enter the Frigid Sea. Luli gathered information about the Frigid Sea region in the city. Many people here often went to the Frigid Sea region, so they were familiar with the situation there. Luli had a basic understanding after some questions. There were 3 ways to get to the Frigid Sea region. The first was to fly over. Even though the Frigid Sea region was not chaotic, there were still some old demons. It would be dangerous for him to fly over. The second was to take a battleship. There was one that could go directly to the space city, and it would cost 80 billion divine stones. The third was the fastest, which was to take the space gate at the Northern Chill City. However, it would cost 1 trillion divine stones. That was not the point. The point was that the Northern Chill City was the territory of the Luofu Palace. There were scouts in the city searching for him with his portrait. Luli didn't dare to open the space gate. He would be in contact with powerful warriors of the Luofu Palace. What if he was seen through? Luli didn't dare to take the risk. Once he was discovered, he would be like a fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Luli decided to take a battleship. The distance was not too far. He would arrive in 3 or 4 months. For Luli, several months was a short time. One closed-door cultivation would be over. Luli waited in the tavern after he paid the 10 billion divine stones. The battleship could depart in 5 days. Luli was nervous as well. If he was discovered and the Luofu Palace attacked him, the consequences would be dire. The shape-shifting mask was useful. Luli stayed in peace for 5 days and successfully boarded the battleship. The battleship was similar to the one at the Palace of Smoke. Maybe it was because the Frigid Sea region was safe. There were dozens of warriors of the Fifth Tribulation on the battleship, but no lord. There were many people on the battleship, about 2,000 or 3,000 in total. Luli went to a cabin to cultivate as soon as he boarded the battleship. He didn't want to communicate with anyone. He just wanted to get to the space city in peace. He was eager to go home. He had never thought about going back before, so he didn't think about reaching the second heaven. Now that he had decided to go home, he became anxious. He wished he could grow a pair of wings and fly back to the second heaven at once. He secretly made up his mind that he would try to keep a low profile and avoid conflicts with others if something big happened. Just like how he didn't kill anyone at the Peach Palace. If it were the old him, he would have started a killing spree. The battleship flew away and soon entered the Frigid Sea region. Luli sensed it and finally understood why it was called the Frigid Sea region. The temperature here was low and the seawater was cold. There was even a cold air on the surface of the sea. But the seawater here was not frozen. Luli learned from the conversation on the battleship that the cold air here was horrifying. Usually, warriors of the Fourth Tribulation realm would be frozen or even frozen to death when they were enveloped by the cold air. There were divine patterns on the battleship, so the cold air outside could not affect the inside. Luli took a look and then left. He focused on cultivation, consuming elixirs and soul elixirs, and at the same time, studying the trace of Tao. Luli deliberately kept a low profile. He never went out and stayed in the cabin. Nobody came to disturb him. The frigid sea region was safe. Nobody attacked the battleship along the way. Soon, 2 months had passed. They had covered more than half of the distance. Luli was relieved. He would arrive at the Space City in a month at most. The Space City was absolutely safe. Once he was in the Space City, he could go directly to the Ziyang land through the interspatial gate. Unfortunately, Luli was trying to keep a low profile. Yet trouble came knocking on his door. 3 days later, a ray of light came. The battleship was suddenly attacked. Then, the battleship exploded and everyone on board was shaken out. What is going on? Chapter 25-37. As soon as Luli came out, he used psychic power to check the surroundings. He was taken aback by what he saw. It was not that someone was targeting the battleship. It was just that 2 powerful warriors were fighting against each other. The shockwaves from their attacks hit the battleships and smashed them. They were 2 old warriors of the Lord Realm. Clearly, they were powerful warriors of the Lord Realm. Their attacks could tear apart space and leave a deep gully in the seawater. The 2 of them were clearly fighting with all their might. Both of them unleashed powerful killing moves. Even though there were warships approaching, they didn't care. Maybe it was because they used psychic power to check, and there were no powerful warriors of the Lord Realm here. Naturally, they didn't mind. Swish, another streak of rainbow flew over. A surge of horrifying killing intent and energy enveloped everyone. Many people were taken aback. Luli released heaven armor at once and moved to the side. Boom, 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 boom. Nearly 100 warriors were minced into pieces. Luli was hit as well. He was smashed away, his armor cracked, and his body was covered in blood. But most of the blood belonged to people nearby. Luli didn't sustain serious injuries. Swish! Before the group of people could recover from their shock, another streak of light flew over. Another few dozen people were killed and several hundred were injured. Spread out. Evacuate. Powerful warriors of the Luofu on the battleships were angry, but they dared not to say anything. Clearly, the 2 old warriors were from the frigid sea. They would not be afraid of the Luofu. If they dared to say anything extreme, they reckoned that the 2 old devils would release their attacks first and kill all of them. They had to admit that they were unlucky. They had to evacuate first. They had backup battleships. Those who died could be compensated later so that the reputation of the Luofu wouldn't be damaged. Something is wrong. Luli suddenly felt something was off. Another streak of rainbow was coming and it was aiming at a place with many people. It seemed that the 2 old warriors were attacking continuously without paying attention to this side. But how could they be so accurate 3 times? Boom, 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 dozens more were killed. There were too many people over there and many were seriously injured. It was a chaotic scene. Luli wanted to leave with the team but he didn't dare to do so after seeing this. Whoosh! He kept a low profile and flew close to the surface of the sea, escaping in another direction. There were also some who did not follow the main group and fled in all directions. This time, there were many merchants with low battle prowess. They didn't dare to escape separately, so they could only escape together with the people from the Louvre. Sizzle, Luli flew for dozens of miles. Then, he saw another ray of sword light flying toward the place with the most people. His heart became even more resolute. Without any hesitation, he flew close to the surface of the sea. Although he wasn't sure if the 2 old devils would kill all of them, one thing was certain. These 2 old demons were definitely targeting the Louvre. The battle between the 2 of them was just a facade. Their goal was to damage the Louvre's reputation and reputation. Therefore, if he continued to travel with the powerhouses of the Louvre, he would be courting death. He could only walk the rest of the way by himself and fly to the spatial city. They were not far away from the interspatial city. If Luli flew at full speed, he could be as fast as a battleship. If he took the god boat, he would be even faster. Of course, Luli was not that stupid. Taking the god speedboat would be suicidal. He planned to fly to the spatial city in a low-key manner. It didn't matter if it took some time. Safety first. Luli flew for more than 2 hours in one go. He was relieved after he was sure that nobody was chasing after him. It seemed that the 2 old demons weren't going to kill everyone. They were just targeting the Louvre. Splash, from the distance, waves surged in. Along with the waves, there was a white cold current. Luli flew up in a hurry. He didn't dare to touch the cold current. It was said that it was very powerful. Once he was enveloped by the cold current, he could be turned into an ice sculpture. After another 2 hours, Luli took out a chariot. It was not very fast, even slower than a battleship. Luli felt flying like this was too boring. He would rather cultivate while sitting on the chariot. It was slower, but he had something to do. Whoosh! Luli flew the chariot to the sky and then flew straight to the north at full speed. This way, he would be more conspicuous. He couldn't care less. If someone wanted to kill him, he could find them even if he was flying close to the surface of the sea. Luli didn't even need to control the chariot to fly in a straight line. He observed for a moment to make sure that he wouldn't be enveloped by the cold current at this height. He asked Blood Fairy to monitor the surroundings in case the chariot would land in the base of a force or crash into an island. Blood Fairy was good at monitoring. Luli was not worried at all. He continued to cultivate in peace. The chariot whooshed on. In merely half a day, Luli encountered someone. "Master, something is up ahead. I think someone is fighting," Blood Fairy said. Luli opened his eyes and used psychic power to check at once. A moment later, he was relieved. It seemed that 2 groups were fighting. But there were not many powerful warriors. The most powerful one was only at the later stage of the 5th tribulation, and there were only a dozen 5th tribulation warriors. "Let's go." Luli put away the chariot and took a detour. He didn't want to get involved in the fight. He just wanted to fly to the spatial city in peace. Whoosh! He had just flown for several thousand miles when he saw a dozen people coming from the battlefield. In the front was a 5th tribulation warrior. The dozen or so people were covered in blood, and their faces were filled with fear. Clearly, the fight had come to an end. One side was defeated. Luli frowned. He wondered if he should speed up and leave right away. But given the chaotic situation nearby, Luli decided to keep a low profile. He flew downward, hoping that the group would not pay attention to him. When the group flew over his head, a warrior at the peak of the 4th tribulation threw Luli a glance. The warrior was filled with killing intent and hacked at Luli with his saber. Courting death. Luli was enraged. He was just a passerby, and he appeared to be only at the initial stage of the 4th tribulation. Those people were in a frenzy and they would not let him go. Whoosh! Luli thought it was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. He turned around and moved to the side to avoid that ray of sword light. Those people were in a hurry to escape. They would not be relentless, would they? Luli's dodging caught the attention of the warrior at the initial stage of the 5th tribulation. The warrior threw Luli a glance and shouted coldly, "Kill him!" Whoosh, 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 more than a dozen people took actions at the same time and launched all kinds of attacks at Luli. Luli was enraged. He released the dragon skill and the heaven armor skill. Holding the soft sword, he withstood the attacks and then flew up. "Since you are courting death, I will send you on your way." Chapter 25-38. Under the influence of Luli's wrath, the warriors suffered. That warrior of the 5th tribulation was struck. Then, Luli left him alone and continued to punch at the warrior of the fourth tribulation. Given his current physical strength, he could kill a warrior of the fourth tribulation with one punch. It was too easy. Run, as a matter of fact, when they were attacking Luli, he didn't suffer any injury. They were disappointed. But since Luli had come, they had no other choice but to fight. The result was that the more than a dozen warriors were all killed by Luli. The warrior of the fifth tribulation died a miserable death after his head was smashed. Whoosh whoosh! From the distance, dozens of warriors were flying over. Seeing Luli was fighting with a group of warriors, they were ready to charge over with killing intent. However, on the way, they saw Luli killing that warrior of the fifth tribulation easily. They were all frightened. They all turned around and fled to another direction. Luli put away all the interspatial rings and flew into the distance quickly. He didn't want to get involved in the fight. He just wanted to fly to the spatial city in peace. After the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, Luli noticed something was wrong again. A battleship came from the right. Luli noticed some psychic powers were locked on him. Then, the battleship turned around and flew toward him. Luli pulled a long face. He was relieved to find that there were only 4 warriors of the fifth tribulation, and they were all at the initial stage or middle stage. Clearly, this was the team that started the fight just now. They were chasing after the fleeing warriors and mistook Luli for a deserter. Luli didn't know what to do. That being said, apart from taking out the god speedboat and running away, he had to fight. He didn't want to expose the god speedboat, which would cause more trouble. He stood in midair, waiting for the warriors to come up. He took out the horn. Now that he had decided to fight, he didn't want to let any of them go. He wanted to kill them all. The horn was an ancient artifact. The information about this artifact could not be known. Once he used it, Luli planned to kill all of them. Whoosh! The battleship stopped 30 miles in front of Luli. More than a dozen warriors flew off, all of them at the fourth tribulation. None of them were at the fifth tribulation. Clearly, they were looking down on Luli. I am just passing by. I don't want to have any conflict with you. Please don't make a mistake. Luli shouted. The more than a dozen warriors were stunned for a moment and then they laughed. How could a warrior at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation talk like this? Isn't he a little too arrogant? Who does he think he is? The dozen or so players didn't say a word. They all flew towards Luli and didn't release any long-range attack. Instead, they locked onto Luli with their weapons. Luli put away his horn and didn't release any special attacks. He just waved his fists and started fighting. Boom! Luli withstood the attacks and punched at a warrior's head. The powerful force surged in and that warrior's soul was shattered. Luli kept on punching. The attacks from more than a dozen people landed on him, but he didn't suffer any damage. The more than a dozen people were all killed with each punch. The people in the warship were somewhat dumbfounded. Could it be that this early-stage fourth tribulation had hidden his strength? That being said, judging from Luli's attack and the vibration of divine energy, he was at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation. Was this person's body made of cold iron? Whoosh, 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 dozens of people in the warship flew out. The 4 fifth tribulation experts came out in full force. Other than 3 people who stayed behind to guard the warship, everyone else came out. They gathered around Luli but were not in a hurry to take action. A warrior of the fifth tribulation stared at Luli and asked, "Who are you? Do you want to make an enemy out of the heaven frigid palace?" Luli replied coldly, "Didn't you hear what I said? I was just passing by. It was your people who started the fight. Do you want me to wait for my death?" "No matter what," the warrior of the fifth tribulation said coldly, "you have killed our people. You must give us an explanation. What do you want?" Luli didn't want to fight if he could avoid it. It seemed that the heaven frigid palace was a big force. That warrior of the fifth tribulation thought about it and said, How about this? You give us 500 billion divine stones and we will let you go. In this way, I can explain to the palace. The horn appeared in Lu Li's hand. He grinned coldly and said, How about this? Give me 1 trillion divine stones and I will spare your lives. Ha ha ha! The warrior of the 5th tribulation laughed. Lu Li didn't waste any more time. It seemed that there was no way to negotiate. Then fight. He activated the horn, then put it to his mouth and blew it. The warriors of the 5th tribulation sensed something was wrong as soon as Lu Li activated the horn. The energy of the horn was suffocating. As soon as the horn sounded, they felt something was off. Hundreds of millions of soul needles swarmed toward them. Apart from the warriors of the 5th tribulation, the others held their heads and screamed in pain. There were also low-level 4th tribulation martial artists who tumbled down. Their souls directly collapsed, and they instantly died. Soon, the warriors of the 5th tribulation could not stand it anymore. One of them rolled around while holding his head and yelling, Lord, please spare us. We are wrong. The heaven frigid palace will compensate you. Lord, our master is friends with a patriarch of the Hall of Ascending Heaven. Even if you don't want to respect the heaven frigid palace, you must show some respect to the Hall of Ascending Heaven. Hall of Ascending Heaven? Lu Li curled his lips. He knew about the Hall of Ascending Heaven, one of the 4 forces in the Frigid Sea area. But the heaven frigid palace was only friends with a patriarch of the Hall of Ascending Heaven? What was the big deal? Lu Li wasted no more time. He flew over like a mad dragon. The relic iron appeared in his hand, and he smashed at the head of a warrior of the 5th tribulation. Boom, boom, after 2 strikes of the relic iron, the warrior of the 5th tribulation died. Lu Li flew to the other warrior. After 2 strikes, the other warrior of the 5th tribulation died as well. Lu Li didn't dare to use the relic iron to attack the remaining 2. Every time he used the relic iron, it would consume a lot of divine energy. He didn't have that much divine energy. He didn't have to worry about the warriors of the 4th tribulation. Most of them would die. It would be a waste of time to kill the rest. What was more important was the 2 warriors of the 5th tribulation. The 2 were more clear-headed now. They were considering whether to run away or fight to the death with Lu Li. But Lu Li blew the horn again. The 2 fell into the trap again. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Li grabbed one by the neck and smashed at the warrior with one hand. After dozens of punches, the warrior's soul was shattered. The other one was easier to deal with. Those were patriarchs of small forces. They didn't have particularly powerful skills. They were weak warriors of the 5th tribulation. For Lu Li, they didn't feel much pressure. Boom! When the last one was killed, a strand of his remnant soul came out and said to Lu Li in a vicious tone, Punk, I have sent the information back. Our master will come to hunt you down in person. Just wait to come down and join us. Slap, Lu Li slapped him and shattered the remnant soul. Lu Li was not worried about this man's threat. It was just a small force. The most powerful master of the sect would be at the peak of the 5th tribulation. There shouldn't be any lord. What was more, he could change his looks and chi and energy at any time. It would be difficult for the heaven frigid palace to find him. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, Lu Li killed everyone. He collected their interspatial rings and left, leaving many bodies floating in the sea. Chapter 2539. Lu Li changed his looks twice along the way. In the end, he became a strong middle-aged man wearing armor. Apart from his face, there was no flesh on his body. He did not ride the chariot anymore. Instead, he flew on his own and used the trace of Tao to sense the surroundings. Once he sensed any noise, he would hide or take a detour. Though the heaven frigid palace was not a major force, Lu Li decided to be careful. Those who underestimated heroes would not end well. They might die miserably. Luli flew for 3.5 days. He ran into people often, but he avoided them all in advance. He found a small island with a big city on it. The city occupied a small half of the island. It could be said to be a very large city. Luli did not go in rashly. Instead, he circled around the island. He saw many battleships and people going in and out. He flew down and arrived at the city. City of Ivory. He asked around and was relieved. This was the territory of Prefecture of Nature, one of the 4 forces in the Frigid Sea. The city had nothing to do with the Heaven Frigid Palace. Master of the Heaven Frigid Palace would not dare to make a move even if he came here. Entering the city cost 1 billion divine stones. Luli paid the divine stones and entered the city. He was even more relieved after he walked around the city. He was in a better mood when he learned that the city of Ivory also had a city with battleship. Flying alone was prone to accidents. Undoubtedly, it would be safer and more comfortable to ride on the battleships of major forces. He did not lack divine stones. Why would he take the risk? The only thing that bothered him was that the first battleship had just departed 2 days ago, and the following ones would depart in a month. Therefore, Luli had to stay in the city for a month. Normally, this would not be a problem. However, the Heaven Frigid Palace might be hunting him down. Luli was worried. Back when he was at the Silver Scorching Sea, he lived in the city as well. In the end, the Wu family took action in the city as well. That being said, the Heaven Frigid Palace was not as powerful as the Wu family, and there were no soul chasers here. Luli was relieved. Luli found a tavern to cultivate. At the same time, he built some runes so that Blood Fairy could keep an eye on him. Half a month passed. Everything had been peaceful. Nothing happened, which put Luli's mind at ease. Master, something is wrong in the city. 19 days later, Blood Fairy sent a message, which made Luli's heart skip a beat. If something happened again, it would be a headache. He hurriedly used his divine telekinesis to investigate, and soon, a look of astonishment appeared on his face. It wasn't that someone wanted to attack him, but that countless people in the city were flying towards the northwest. In the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of people had flown out. There were many people in this city, and there were many experts as well. The population was estimated to be over 5 million, and from the looks of it, hundreds of thousands of people would fly out. Because there were still many people in the castle continuously rising into the sky, flying towards the northwest. Let's go out and have a look. Luli was curious. What was going on with so many people flying out? Luli walked out of the castle and asked a waiter a few questions. The waiter understood some of the situation and replied, "It's said that there is a heavenly phenomenon thousands of miles away in the northwest. It's said that there are auspicious clouds covering the sky and seawater hitting the sky. Countless sea beasts are gathering there. It's very likely that a great treasure has appeared." Great treasure? Luli curled his lips in disbelief. How could there be abnormal phenomena in heaven and earth when a treasure appeared? Would a supreme expert break through? Or would there be a Lord Realm or a great Emperor Realm warrior? Whoosh, 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 more and more warriors were flying out from the city. Luli decided to go and have a look. With so many people flying over, nobody would notice him unless they were going to fight for the treasure. He was just going to have a look, not to fight for anything. Nobody would notice a warrior at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation, right? Luli flew up and followed a group of people to the northwest. This group of people formed a long line and flew towards the northwest in a mighty manner. Many people were discussing as they flew. Luli listened attentively to the discussions. Most of what they said was basically just rumors. Nobody had been there yet. They were just listening to the information sent back by the scouts. Many people spoke in a methodical manner. They said that some people saw a shocking phenomenon in the sea over there. Heaven and earth were illuminated by divine light, and waves of strange fragrance wafted out. Luli was dubious about the rumors. He followed them. It didn't take him long to cover the distance of thousands of miles. He could see from the distance that there were many people gathered there, and he could not hear any exclamations. Luli looked into the distance. There were auspicious clouds and rays of light. When the rays of light fell down, the seawater was tumbling up. Even though he was far away, he could smell the strange fragrance coming from the sea. Luli turned to the area where people were gathered. There was a huge whirlpool in the middle of the sea. It looked like the mouth of a huge beast that was going to devour everything. Luli looked around. He noticed that many people had come, about 200,000 or 300,000 in total. Many powerful warriors were here. Fifth Tribulation warriors could be seen everywhere. Luli even suspected that some of the old demons were at the Lord level. Everyone's eyes looked towards the huge whirlpool, because the strange fragrance came from the whirlpool, and the divine light above also shot into the whirlpool. If there was a strange treasure appearing, it would definitely fly out from the whirlpool. Why didn't anyone go down to check? Luli was confused. But he understood after he took a closer look. The whirlpool was surrounded by cold currents. Those cold currents were moving along with the whirlpool. Many cold currents were sucked into the bottom of the sea. Well, there are powerful beasts down there. Luli's expressions changed. The seawater restricted psychic power. Luli's psychic power could only cover an area with a radius of several hundred miles. That being said, he could feel the suffocating energy coming from the bottom of the sea. The water was still tumbling. Average sea beasts would not be able to make such big waves. Luli was curious. There must be something strange going on with such a phenomenon and so many powerful beasts. But he did not know what it was exactly. Luli did not intend to take the treasures. He was just here to enjoy the show. There were so many people here, all kinds of people. A warrior at the initial stage of the Fourth Tribulation would not attract any attention. As long as he did not go for the treasures, who would pay attention to him? Splash, 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 the whirlpool was growing turbulent. Rays of divine light entered the whirlpool. The strange fragrance in the air was growing stronger. Right at that moment, a surge of divine energy spread out from the bottom of the sea. The divine energy enveloped everyone, making their souls tremble. Oh no, everyone felt uneasy. Luli sensed something was wrong at once. He said to himself that he could not stay here any longer. He mobilized divine energy and flew back. However, a surge of suction force came from the whirlpool, affecting everyone. Luli and many others who were trying to run were all dragged into the whirlpool by the strong force. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.